Chapter 934 Crackling. Ding li ding. After Mu Jian awoke, Fang Shi also noticed it. She didn't know that Mu Jian had woke up, but she felt that Mu Jian's condition had improved, and she felt relieved. Zhu Shihuan clicked his tongue and said, "It seems that Zheng Wen, that idiot, is of some use, and can occasionally provide us with some useful information. My dear granddaughter, do you know why this is?" Although Fang Shi hated other people's fishing-like way of speaking, who knew it was her cheap grandfather who said this, so she had no choice but to cooperate. "Why?" Zhu Shihuan said slowly, "Because he has a simple mind, he considers things from the beginning to the end. Unlike the two of us, who have too many twists and turns, he sometimes ignores some simple answers." Fang Shi. "Why do I think you are not praising the fifth senior brother, but you are praising us in disguise?" Zhu Xuan boasted again and changed the topic. "I guess your broken sword won't wake up for a while, and it's about to enter the Haoshan mirror. Are you trying to find a way to get another sword?" Mu Jian almost died of anger when he heard this. "I'm not dead yet, and you old Piao are planning to find a successor for me. No wonder you became a Piao, you lack great virtue." But then it thought about it, it was not to blame Lao Piao, the Haoshan mirror must be very dangerous, and the unscrupulous master would not be able to survive without a sword. "If you want to blame me, just blame Donkey Dung Dan for not getting angry with me earlier, but for getting angry with me now. You should wait until you meet a strong enemy to make me angry again. Even Qiongqi was stunned by me. I guess no one can resist my shocking sword." While it was thinking wildly, Fang Shi took out a few spirit swords from the storage ring, which she had picked up from everywhere. Although it is a spiritual sword, it has almost no spiritual intelligence and is only slightly stronger than an ordinary sword. Zhu Xuan clicked his tongue and said, "Maybe I'm used to seeing those flashy broken swords. I don't think these swords are very good." Mu Jian suddenly felt happy. Old R Piao is not so hateful sometimes. Zhu Yanhuan continued, "There are many spiritual swords in the Changsheng Sect sword pavilion. Why don't you go there and pick one? Wooden sword. I take back what I just said." At this time, Little Black Ball said to Fang Shi, "Master, let's not talk about whether you can get the spiritual sword in the sword pavilion. Who knows whether the spiritual sword in the sword pavilion has been tampered with? I have an idea. Haven't you conquered many spiritual sword shadows? Why not pick some clever ones and let them inhabit these spiritual swords? Firstly, they're loyal to you, secondly, their intelligence is adequate, and the most important thing is that they're familiar with the swordsmanship and sword formations you know. This last one alone can completely defeat the swords in the sword pavilion. By the way, because they're just inhabiting the spirit sword, they can escape from their shells at critical moments, and maybe they can deceive some fools." The reason why Little Black Ball worked so hard to convince Fang Shi was mainly out of compensation for Mu Jian. No matter what, Mu Jian's fainting had something to do with it, and it had to help Mu Jian. For monks, they're generally accustomed to using only one sword. If the master goes to the sword pavilion and chooses a more suitable spiritual sword, wouldn't the wooden sword fall out of favor? The golden pig and the little fat bird also agreed with the Little Black Ball. Although wooden swords are cheap, they're their partners who share the joys and sorrows with them. Although they are not willing to add icing on the cake, they can provide help in times of need. Mu Jian was so moved when he saw this scene. "My good brothers and sisters. I did that to you before, I'm so sorry for you. When I get better, I will never be a bitch again." Fang Shi knew the thoughts of Little Black Ball and the others, and she was not willing to choose another spiritual sword. On the one hand, Mu Jian has been following her for such a long time. Although he is out of tune, he can still do it at critical moments, otherwise he would not be able to help her fight against the thunder. It would be somewhat unethical for her to go to the sword pavilion to choose a sword while it was sleeping. On the other hand, she learned from past experiences and lessons that the spiritual pets she had conquered were more famous than the last, but their actual abilities were not very good, and some of them were even free of charge. For example, the Wotenshu who has been sleeping since receiving it. Therefore, she felt that even if she went to Janj, she would probably only come back with a gadget that she liked but didn't use. Rather than doing this, it is better to try what the Little Black Ball said. So, after it got dark, Fang Shi released all the spirit sword shadows and met them one by one. In the end, the tallest of the dwarfs chose 7 spiritual sword shadows and let them temporarily inhabit the 7 spiritual swords. I don't know what the remaining spirit sword phantoms were thinking, or maybe they misunderstood Fang Zai's meaning and thought they were allowed to enter the 7 spirit swords, so they scrambled to get in. The 7 spiritual swords, which were originally extremely ordinary, instantly became dazzling. Then the fighting started. That guy fought so fiercely. Crackling, ding li ding. 2 swords even got into the fish pond to fight. The red smoke carps were so frightened that they trembled. They all chose steamed buns and big pancakes, and that pervert Fang Shi didn't even intend to let them go. She is so inhuman. The red smoke carps were very angry, but the spirit sword shadows thought it was so fun. This is much more interesting than being a sparring partner before. Zhu Xuan watched with gusto, shouting and yelling, which made Fang Zai's head buzz. Fang Shi was a little speechless. Just when he was trying to make Zhu Huan stop, Zhu Huan said, don't say it, these half-dead sword spirits are a bit interesting. They fight quite methodically. Shaoxi, you'd better get these 7 swords numbered and trained. Maybe you can form a sword array by yourself. Fang Zai's heart moved, but it wasn't impossible. Fang Shi randomly took one of the 7 swords, and then began to try to form a 7-year killing formation with the other 6 swords. The idea is good, but it is difficult to implement. The sword in Fang Zai's hand is okay. After all, Fang Shi is the first to control it. The other 6 swords are filled with dozens of sword spirits, each with their own ideas, whether it is sword moves or sword spirits. You can move wherever you want, it's a mess. It's not like Fang Shi has never thought that there is only one sword spirit in a sword, but if there is only one sword spirit, the effect will be greatly reduced. It can only be said that there are advantages and disadvantages, it depends on how she chooses. Fang Shi thought about it for a while, and felt that the reason why these spirit sword shadows dared to act recklessly was because they felt that the law did not punish the public, and they could just make up for it. So, she divided her consciousness into several parts, and each part stared at a spiritual sword shadow. If anyone was disobedient, she would deal with it severely. This time the sword spirits were much more honest. Of course, the prerequisite for being able to do this is that Fang Zai's spiritual consciousness is powerful enough, and no one else can do it. Even if it is bloody. Of course, even if Zhu Yanhuan knew this in his heart, he would definitely not admit it with his mouth. He was still making sarcastic remarks there. Shaoxi, after all, you are still too weak. You see, I don't need the so-called magic sword at all, because I have already mastered the art of swordsmanship. As long as I have a sword in my heart, everything in the world can be used by me. Even a branch is the best sword in my hand. The little black ball said quietly, you are so powerful, how did you become like this? Blood-devouring world. The whole sect is a dog licking, but the junior sister is a real dog. Chapter 935 Senior Brother 5 is really a talent. Zhu Xuan was so shocked that his face turned red and his neck became thick. Of course, he is just a piao now, and his blushing and rough neck are just what he feels. He roared angrily, presumptuous. You are looking for death. The little black ball was not afraid of him at all and snorted coldly. I'm telling the truth. I know you are great, but there's no need for you to brag about it. If you have that skill, you might as well cultivate yourself, and maybe you can recover your cultivation sooner. The little black ball is now filled with gratitude to Fang Shi. Seeing that blood-devouring world is floating all over the place, the owner is too embarrassed to say anything, so it is the only one to be the bad guy. Zhu Xuan was so angry that he was about to say something more. Fang Shi said to the little black ball. Stop talking nonsense there, why don't you apologize to my grandpa quickly? The little black ball was quite obedient, and immediately said to Zhu Yanhuan, I'm sorry. Zhu Xuan snorted coldly and was speechless. He wouldn't argue with a donkey dung egg. However, he was somewhat touched in his heart. He seemed to have been bragging a lot recently, so he should try to restrain himself a little more in the future. In fact, Fang Shi doesn't mind Zhu Xuan's self-praising from time to time, and can understand it. Blood-devouring Huan was a peerless genius who only appeared in tens of thousands of years, but he sacrificed himself for the sake of the world before he could become famous in Juyu continent. Not only did he become a piao, he was also charged with almost causing a catastrophe. Although he was willing to do so, it was hard to reconcile. It's good to vent your emotions in this way of bragging, at least you won't turn into a lunatic. Fang Shi trained little black ball again, comforted Zhu Xuan for a few words, and then continued to practice the Qiyao killing formation. After countless failures, I finally succeeded 2 days later. Zhu Yanhuan couldn't help but sigh in his heart. In terms of spiritual consciousness, this girl is indeed better than me. If it were me, she wouldn't be able to do it in 2 days, let alone 2 years. Just as he was thinking about it, he heard Fang Shi say, Grandpa, am I so useless? It took me so long to take shape. Compared with you, I'm just a useless snack. In fact, I can practice the 3-person sword formation first, and then add it bit by bit, but I am your granddaughter, and I can't embarrass you. If you want to come, I will do the most difficult one. Blood-devouring world. Just shut up. I don't want to hear it anymore. That donkey dung egg even said that I was floating. Compared with this girl, I am already very humble, okay. What Fang Shi said was actually the truth. She did feel that it took a bit long. If her consciousness was stronger, it wouldn't have taken so long at all. She then began to practice the 3-person, Western, 5-person and 6-person sword formations, and then decided how many swords to put out based on actual needs. She called Zhang Wen and Jing Yan over again. Senior brother Shi, 5th senior brother, I'll show you something fun. Fang Shi first demonstrated the 3-person sword formation to them. Before the two of them could close their mouths in surprise, Fang Shi summoned another sword and began to demonstrate the Western sword formation. After demonstrating everything, Fang Shi said with a smile, how is it? Neither Zhang Wen nor Jing Yan spoke. It's not that I don't want to say it, it's that I'm short of words. Zhang Wen remembered that Fang Shi had tried the gameplay of one person forming a 2-person sword formation in the ancient battlefield before, but he didn't expect that it would be even more fun now. One person forms a 7-person sword formation. The first one is unheard of and unseen. If the wooden sword was restored, wouldn't she be able to form an 8-person sword formation by herself? The key is that the sword formation is easier to use than a real person. Zhang Wen's heart moved. Little junior sister, I think your sword formation can be improved. The real person still has to defend, but you don't need your spiritual sword. You can completely improve the sword formation to only attack but not defend, so the lethality will be increased several times. Fang Zai's eyes suddenly lit up. 5th senior brother is really a talent. Zhu Xuan said to Fang Shi, how about it? Let me just say, this muscle has its own benefits, we didn't expect this. Fang Shi. Zhu Yanhuan said this, but in fact he was somewhat impressed by Zhang Wen. This idiot's talent in swordsmanship was indeed good. Zhu Xuan and Zhang Wen worked together to improve several spiritual sword formations suitable for Fang Shi. Except for Fang Zai's own position, the other spiritual swords were only for offense but not defense. Fang Shi also tried to get Zhang Wen and Jing Yan to join, but they both failed and had to give up. On this day, Fang Shi was practicing the spirit sword formation when Elder Yin came. He has been practicing in seclusion these days. To be precise, he is suppressing his cultivation level because he is afraid that if his cultivation level rises again, he may attract thunder. As soon as he came out of seclusion, he rushed to see his precious apprentice. Of course, he met secretly and one-sidedly. Elder Yin's eyes almost popped out of his head when he saw Fang Shi and several swords forming a formation there. After Zhu Xuan saw it, he curled his lips. You haven't seen the way Mouse Jing looks like he has never seen the world. He really looks like a petty person. It's ridiculous that a guy like this is still an elder from the Guardian sect. Although Fang Shi felt that what Zhu Huan said was a bit excessive, she didn't dare to say anything. After all, Zhu Huan was jealous now. If she talked about him because of Elder Yin, she would definitely become a demon. No matter, Elder Yin can't hear it anyway, so he can call the rat if he wants. A rat? No. Elder Yin watched Fang Shi practice the sword formation intently, and he had the urge to accept a disciple on the spot several times. But thinking about what Sima's sect leader said, I finally endured it. When Shaoxi comes out of the Haoshan mirror, even if the King of Heaven comes, he will have to reveal his identity and accept his disciples. When there were 3 days left before the Haoshan mirror was opened, Sima's sect leader found Fang Shi. As soon as they met, Sima's sect leader smiled as brightly as a foxtail grass blooming. Fang Shi knew at a glance that he must be asking for something. Sure enough, after saying a few words of greetings, Sima's sect master said, Shaoxi, I won't talk in circles with you, I'll just say it first. Although the situation is different every time the Haoshan mirror is opened, sometimes everyone will be transported to the same place, sometimes they are separated, but after all, you have to stay in the Haoshan mirror for a month, so you will meet other people, the chances are still great. If you meet a disciple from Enlightenment Peak who can help, please help me. I will definitely not treat you badly after you come out. Fang Shi said with a smile, Sect Master, you are too ignorant. Even if you don't say anything, I will help them based on my friendship with them. To be honest, in my opinion, there is no difference between them and my senior brothers and sisters. Sect Master Sima was quite moved. Just as he was about to say something, Fang Shi said with a smile. Then what? How are you going to treat me rightly? The whole sect is a dog licking, but the junior sister is a real dog. Chapter 950. Fang Shi is already in tears. The dead branches stopped at the cliff and killed the idea of exchanging the moss fruits for the beast cause one by one. It actually wants to bargain with the unscrupulous owner. Isn't this seeking skin from a tiger? The big stone was bullied by its unscrupulous owner a few days ago. It doesn't have a long memory and wants to make the same mistakes again. It's so stupid. The wooden sword that was sealed inside the sword was rolling with laughter. With a dead branch, you still want to fight with its owner. You were really asking for trouble. And that unlucky guy Jilei was actually manipulated by a small flame. It was really useless. Ugh. It seems that the master's army of spiritual pets is really useless without it to take charge of the overall situation. Look what a mess it's become. Thinking of this, the wooden sword started to hit for the 10,000th time, trying hard to get out of the sword body, but still failed. Fortunately, its psychological quality was very good. Even so, it was not discouraged and started the 1001st impact. Fang Shi didn't know that Mu Jian was saving herself, so she put the auspicious cloud hairpin full of electricity on her hair again. She thought to herself, she had a ball of fire on her head, she was really lucky. Huai Mingzhen saw Fang Zai's mysterious operation and was so interested that he didn't ask anything. Including the sea snake army and violent moray eels released by Fang Shi, he pretended to have seen nothing. What happened to Warcraft? As long as it is released by the captain, it is a good beast. Besides, if the captain had malicious intentions, grass would have grown on his grave long ago. A person should be grateful. The captain is kind to him. If he asks questions and is suspicious, he will be a white-eyed wolf. Fang Shi was very satisfied with his performance. Knowing how to advance and retreat, and being measured, is very good. As expected of Elder Huai's nephew, he has a rich family background. The years are quite here, but the big grey fish in front are tired and vomiting blood. They swam forward desperately, but as to why they stopped flying, it was simple, they couldn't fly anymore. They can't help but complain about their companions who have died long ago. Are there not enough moths for you to eat? You must provoke these 3 evil stars. Why are you so greedy? You are dead and 100 are dead, which brings disaster to us. They selectively forgot that they also wanted to attack the 3 of Fang Shi. At this time, Fang Shi found that the water level began to drop. This underground river is interesting. The balance of the food chain is maintained by fluctuations. Of course, it may be survival of the fittest, and the moths are forced to adapt to the rise and fall of the river water. Fang Shi signaled the violent moray eel to slow down, lest the fish in front of them would be exhausted. Although she is like a wild goose, she will not kill them all. If all the fish schools are wiped out, those moths will become infested. Although this is the Haoshan mirror, this Haoshan mirror will be hers from now on, and she has to maintain the ecological balance. All the spiritual pets who sensed her thoughts. Why is the Haoshan mirror yours? Is it really okay for you to be so blindly confident? Seeing that the violent moray eels had slowed down, the school of fish took a breather. They were really exhausted. However, victory is in sight. As long as they hold on, these 3 damn humans will be in bad luck. With good wishes in mind, the school of fish continues to swim forward. Swimming and swimming, the river becomes winding, one bend after another. The 3 people in Fang Shi also heard the deafening sound of the water hitting them. After turning another corner, the river stopped. To be precise, a section appeared, forming a waterfall. Schools of fish waved their fins and glided down the waterfall. Before he went down, he made a coo sound, just like an old hen. Clearly provocative. Fang Shi swam to the edge of the waterfall and looked down. This waterfall is 100 feet deep. If you lose your footing and fall, the consequences will be disastrous. It would be easier to do it in the outside world, just take Eugene and fly down. But since flying is prohibited here, we can only think of other ways. Zhang Wen and Huai Mingzhen scratched their heads and tried to think of a solution, but unfortunately found nothing. Zhang Wen saw Fang Zai's calm expression and asked, Junior sister, have you thought of a solution? Fang Shi said. You have also seen before that although those big grey fish can fly, their flying height is very limited, so when they come up, the height of the waterfall must be much smaller than it is now. So, we just have to wait here. Zhang Wen and Huai Mingzhen suddenly realized what they were saying and started blowing rainbow farts one after another. You praise me and I praise you. Jian Shou praised Fang Shi as a god. Fang Shi shook his head. Don't be blindly optimistic. After the water level drops, there may be other dangers here. We need to be more vigilant. As Fang Shi spoke, she began to look for a hiding place. By chance, she found a groove on a nearby stone wall. There were several stalactites in front of it, making it a good place to hide. So, the three of them hid in that groove. The water level dropped faster and faster until it was only calf deep. But there was no movement in the water, and there were no bamboo shoots that had appeared before. Just when Zhang Wen and Huai Mingji felt that Fang Shi might be worrying too much, many figures suddenly appeared out of thin air. These people wore battle robes and were covered in blood. They kept waving the spiritual swords in their hands. Kill, kill, kill. Following the cry of killing, gravel rolled down the surrounding stone walls, and even some stalactites broke. The murderous intent of these figures was real. Fang Shi and Zhang Wen were fine, but Huai Ming was sweating coldly. He couldn't help but look at Fang Shi and saw that her face was filled with tears. Fang Shi casually wiped her tears with her sleeves. During the ancient battlefield, she had seen the costumes of the various divisions of the Shenyang army from General Yan, and judged from their costumes that these figures belonged to the Tiangshan camp. Thinking about it, they also died in the battle, but for some reason their obsession persisted and they remained here. Huai Ming didn't know what was going on, and thought to himself, it seems that the captain's courage is only so much. I was just scared out of my body in a cold sweat, but she was actually scared to cry. He went to see Zhang Wen again, and when he saw Zhang Wen also looked sad, his self-confidence, which he had been away from home for many days, returned instantly. It seems that among the three of them, he is the boldest. At this time, one of those figures looked towards their hiding place, and then he shouted. Tiang dog thief, seeking death. As he stopped drinking, those figures looked over at the same time, and the long swords in their hands were pointed at Fang Shi and the others. Huai Ming Frame was almost scared to death. At this time, Fang Shi jumped down from the groove. The Shenyang army Tiangshan camp. Fang Shi invites you to join the battle. Zhang Wen also jumped down. The lord of the Tiangshan camp of the Shenyang army heard that he has requested to join the battle. Huai Ming Frame. He bravely jumped down. The Tiangshan camp of the Shenyang army. Huai Ming Zhen asked for orders to join the battle. He thought to himself, where is all this going? The speaking figure looked up to the sky and laughed. Okay, I, Zhu Yuelang, must have this kind of fearlessness of life and death. Kill with me. Kill. 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 Ellipsis. The whole sect is a dog licking, but the junior sister is a real dog. Chapter 951. Yo ho. We are coming. Huai Ming Zhen had 10,000 question marks in his heart, but he didn't dare to ask. He could only follow the others and wave the long sword. At first he just wanted to make up his mind, but unknowingly he was infected by the tragic atmosphere and shouted at the top of his lungs. Kill. 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 Ellipsis. With all the conscience in the world, he doesn't even know who to kill. Anyway, just keep shouting. I don't know how long I shouted, but when the water reached my waist, the figures began to become more and more blurry, and finally disappeared completely. Huai Ming Zhen vaguely heard someone shouting something about the sun and the moon, and something about Juyu. When he tried to listen carefully, he couldn't hear anything. He wiped his face with water and asked Zhang Wen, did you hear clearly what they shouted? Zhang Wen was different from his usual playful smile, his face was full of solemnity. The long sword shines on the sun and the moon, and the hot blood protects the 9 netherworlds. Huai Ming Zhen was really not used to seeing Zhang Wen look so serious. He wanted to ask but didn't know whether he should ask, so he didn't ask further. Fang Shi pointed to the groove where they were hiding before, and Zhang Wen and Huai Ming Zhen followed her and hid in the groove again. Fang Shi looked at Huai Mingji. You are curious about the identities of those people, right? Huai Ming Frame scratched his head. Captain, if it's not convenient for you to tell me, I won't be curious. Fang Shi. Those people are the obsession of the Shenyang army. The Shenyang army is not a force in the southern territory, nor is it a force in the northern territory. There are human races, demon races, Satan races, and even some great demons in disguise. They put aside their past grudges and fight against the enemy together, just to protect their homeland. Huai Ming Frame is even more confused now. A team formed by the human race from the southern region, the human race from the northern region, the demon race, the Satan race, and the demon race. Why does it sound so mysterious? Then Fang Shi told Huai Ming Zhen exactly what happened on the ancient battlefield. Huai Ming Zhen's eyes widened and his mouth opened wide. He received a huge shock. After a while, Fang Shi sighed. Foreign enemies are watching with eager eyes, and our own people are still deceiving each other, fighting to the death. If the Tiang alliance invades, the consequences will be disastrous. Unfortunately, this matter cannot be spoken out in a big way, otherwise once the Tiang League's informants learn about it, they're likely to take action in advance, which will be very detrimental to us. So far, the number of people who know about this can be counted on one hand. Senior brother Ming Zhen, I didn't want to tell you this matter originally, not because I didn't trust you, but because I was afraid of bringing you danger, but now that you have seen it, I won't hide it from you. Please keep this secret strictly and never reveal it. Huai Ming Zhen nodded like a fool. Captain, don't worry, I will definitely keep it secret, let alone tell others. I won't even tell anyone if I talk in my sleep. Fang Shi nodded. Senior brother Ming Zhen, from now on, the burden on your shoulders will be heavier. What you have to shoulder is not your personal honor and disgrace, but the life and death of the entire Jiyu continent. Huai Ming Zhen suddenly felt excited, and he was 2 feet tall. The uncle always says that he cannot bear the burden of revitalizing the family. Oh, what he is now bearing is the life and death of the entire Jiyu continent. Who are you looking down on? Fang Shi poured chicken blood and chicken soup into Huai Ming Frame, and then said. As I told you before, this matter cannot be publicized for the time being, and even if I tell it, no one may believe it, and it will alarm the snake. I find that the strategy I am adopting now is to use my bond to integrate all the forces. Now the Northern Territory human race, the Dao tribe and the Demon tribe have no problem, only the Southern Territory human race is left. For the human race in the Southern Territory, the Changsheng sect is the top priority, and I suspect that there are spies from the Tiank Alliance within the sect, so I can only establish a firm foothold first and then slowly figure it out. Everything I did before was based on this starting point. The effect was good, but it was far from enough. I will ask Brother Mingzhen for more help in the future. Huai Mingzhen slapped his chest loudly. Captain, I dare not say anything else, but for the Jiu continent, I will risk my life. If you have any tasks in the future, just arrange them for me and I won't give you a second thought. Fang Shi nodded with satisfaction and told him about the Chi of Death, asking him to tell her if he had any clues. While they were talking, the water level was rising, and the sound of the waterfall was much quieter. It can be seen that the gap in the water surface was getting smaller and smaller. At this time, a big grey fish flew up waving its fins. Then another big grey fish flew up one after another. As soon as they came up, they stared westward with fish eyes. Because the three people from Fengshi were in a relatively hidden place, the school of fish did not see them. They thought Fengshi and the other two were dead, and they immediately made excited cooing sounds. Should. Live it. I'm telling you to yell. Were you killed by those ghosts? When they were excited, Fengshi said quietly, what a coincidence, we meet again. Following the words, Fengshi and the other two people jumped into the underground river. The big grey fish. The next moment, jump down with all your strength. Yo-ho, we are coming. Yo-ho, here we go again. The main theme comes and goes in a hurry. The big grey fish are so scared. Even when jumping, I didn't care too much, many of them were riding on their companions. Fortunately, fish will not drown, otherwise a few of them would have drowned. When Fengshi and the other two arrived at the edge of the waterfall, the drop in the water surface was only about 3 feet, which was not a problem for them. Fengshi first released the violent moray eel and part of the sea snake army to prevent the big grey fish from setting up an ambush below. If that's the case, if they jump down, they will end up in the mouth of a fish. In fact, Fengshi was overly worried. Those big grey fish were so frightened that their scales almost fell off. If they had the guts to ambush below, they would have escaped long ago. After the 3 people from Fengshi jumped down, they sat on the backs of the violent moray eels and chased them in the direction where the fish were escaping. There is still a cave below, but there are relatively fewer stalactites, and no moths are seen. After about half an hour, it suddenly dawned on me. The moment he saw the sky, Huai Ming had the urge to cry. It's not easy. He thought he was going to die several times, but unexpectedly he came out safely. He thought Fengshi would choose to land ashore, but he didn't expect that Fengshi still chose to travel in the water, and even let the violent moray eels dive into the water. Junwen glanced at him. Don't you understand? If we walk on the shore, we are in the light and Shen Jilin and others are in the dark. If we are in the water, it is the other way around. Study hard and don't stick your tail up. Wyming frame. We don't know who likes to have his tail raised. The whole sect is a dog licking, but the junior sister is a real dog. Chapter 952. Are you lining up to welcome me? The 3 people in Fengshi chased, and the situation in the river became more and more complicated. Not only were there many aquatic plants, but also small fish and shrimps began to appear. The big grey fish suddenly disappeared. The 3 of them were very puzzled. They were not too far away from the fish school, so why did the fish school suddenly disappear? When Fengshi was about to investigate carefully, she vaguely heard something moving on the shore. She put the violent moray eel into the monster bag, swam to a patch of aquatic plants, and used the cover of the aquatic plants to look toward the shore. 2 groups of people were standing on the shore, confronting each other. One of the groups was Shen Jilin and others, while there were only 3 people on the other side. Jing Yan, Luo Chen and Jiang Yan. Shen Jilin was persuading Luo Chen and Jiang Yan, what we are looking for is Jing Yan, and it has nothing to do with you, so don't wade into this muddy water. Moreover, we are not looking for Jing Yan to harm him, we just want to use him to find Fengshi to help detoxify the poisoned people. Jiang Yan snorted coldly, what a liar, who doesn't know that you and Fengshi and the others have a grudge? If we hand Jing Yan over to you, we might have to collect his body. Having said this, he looked at Zhu Jiun and others, you are also respectable people after all, but you actually followed Shen Jilin and joined in the same deeds. It really makes me sit up and take notice. Zhu Jiun and others looked a little confused, but they didn't say anything. Ding Wenchang from Duke Peak, on the other hand, sneered. Jiang Yan, don't be so weird here. We and junior sister Jilin are just an alliance, but you are following the Fengshi like a dog all day long. Jiang Yan's violent temper could not bear this, so he immediately drew his sword. Ding Wenchang, if you are capable, you can challenge me and see if I don't kill you. Jing Yan patted Jiang Yan on the shoulder. Senior brother Jiang, wait until I say a few words to them before taking action. Jiang Yan gave Jing Yan some face, glared hard at Ding Wenchang and said nothing. Jing Yan looked at Shen Jilin and others and said, let's not talk about whether Huai Ming Frame's poisoning is true or not. Let me ask you, Huai Ming Frame is alone, why does he provoke you? I'm afraid you did something bad to him first, right? Let me guess, they're probably competing for some kind of natural treasure, right? You guys are taking it for granted and you have the nerve to ask my junior sister for an explanation. What a big face. Zhu Jiun and others' faces were burning, and they lowered their heads and said nothing. However, there were also some people who were dissatisfied and angry, Ding Wenchang being the most prominent among them. He sneered and said, we don't have time to talk nonsense with you. If you don't want to implicate Luo Chen and Jiang Yan, just follow us. Otherwise, none of the 3 of you will even think about leaving. Jing Yan said calmly, Jing Yan, always do things alone, so naturally I won't hurt my friends. Senior brother Luo, senior brother Jiang, let's go. If you meet my little junior sister, let her come and save me. Jiang Yan wanted to speak, but Luo Chen glared at him, and Jiang Yan shut up. Luo Chen clasped his fists at Jing Yan, junior brother Jing Yan, let's go first, take care. Ding Wenchang curled his lips. The people in the sect praised Luo Chen to the sky, but in the end he was still a coward. Not only is he a coward, the so-called captain of the West is also an indecisive person. Only junior sister Jilin acts decisively and is a person who does big things. Thinking of what Master Han had ordered him to do, he couldn't help but look at Jing Yan with a hint of murderous intent. Zhu Xiwen and others did not expect Luo Chen to agree so happily, but that's right, people are selfish, not to mention that Jing Yan is only a member of Enlightenment Peak in name only. Just when everyone was having different thoughts, Jing Yan looked at the back of the crowd and said in surprise, "Little junior sister." Everyone turned around subconsciously, but no one was seen at all. When he turned around, Jing Yan and the others had already run hundreds of feet away. Everyone. Didn't it mean that Jing Yan was introverted and had no scheming ideas? Why are you so full of bad water? And Jiang Yan's stupid King Jingyan can also act. Even Luo Chen, a good gentleman, has become sinister. What kind of evil wind is blowing at Wudao Peak? Shen Jilin gritted her teeth and said, "Chase." Just when everyone was about to chase, someone said crisply, "Hey, there are so many people. Are you lining up to welcome me?" Everyone followed the sound and looked over, and saw a small head protruding from the water plants in the middle of the river. It was Fang Shi with a bright smile on his face. Shen Jilin looked at Fang Shi as if she had quenched poison. "Fang Shi, Huai Mingzhen poisoned us with the poison you gave us, please hand over the antidote quickly." Fang Shi tilted her little head and looked at her. "Are you sure it was Huai Ming Frame who administered the poison?" "I think it was you who administered the poison." "You called, catch a thief, didn't you just want to lure me into the game?" "Shen Jilin, I know you hate me, but you can't treat Exafeng disciples as fools. Also, what on earth do you people think, that you are actually mixed up with a broom star who was struck by lightning? Even if you were not poisoned by her, you were still poisoned by her. Did she promise you any benefits? Do not be silly, if there was such a good thing, she would have hidden it secretly a long time ago. How can she tell you? I really thought she was as kind as me." Some people started to murmur in their hearts when they heard Feng Zai's words, especially Zhu Xiwen and others. They had already disapproved of Shen Jilin's actions, but now that they heard Feng Zai's words, their thoughts became more vivid. Shen Jilin's face turned livid with anger. "Feng Shi, stop sowing discord here. If you have the ability, come up." Feng Shi tilted her little head. "If you have the guts, come down." Shen Jilin really wanted to jump into the river and kill Feng Shi, but she didn't dare. She felt that there must be an ambush in the water, otherwise Feng Shi would not look so confident. She is smart but some people are stupid. Ding Wenchang is very crazy now. After all, apart from Captain West and Shen Jilin, he was the only one who got the Nguyen fruit in the previous selection trial. In addition, Peak Master Han promised that as long as he got rid of any one of the 3 Feng Shi people, he would accept him as a disciple, so he sneered. "Feng Shi, you are looking for death." After saying that, he jumped into the river. Feng Shi slithered and retracted his head into the water. Everyone watched from the shore and did not hear any fighting. After a while, Feng Shi revealed her little head again and sighed. Ding Wenchang was eaten by a big grey fish. He swallowed it like a jujube. He swallowed it without even chewing it. "Do you want to come down and be his companion?" Everyone subconsciously took several steps back. Big grey fish. If there really is a big grey fish, why is Feng Shi okay? It seemed that Ding Wenchang was probably killed by Feng Shi using some means. Shen Jilin gritted her teeth. "Everyone, Feng Shi is openly killing his fellow disciples. We can't just sit idly by and ignore it. Let's go down together." Feng Shi curled her lips. "Shen Jilin, everyone is here to look for opportunities in the Haoshan mirror. It would be better for you to drag them through the muddy water for your personal grudges. I highly doubt you did it on purpose. You just don't want them to get a chance. Sure enough, it makes sense for the thunder to strike you. You are bad and stupid and deserve to be struck by lightning." The whole sect is a dog licking, but the junior sister is a real dog. Chapter 953. This tale is going to fly over the edge. Shen Jilin was about to refute, but Feng Shi didn't give her a chance to speak and raised her voice. "Your explanation is a cover-up, and cover-up is a guilty conscience. If you were really doing it for everyone's benefit, why didn't you jump out yourself instead of dragging others into the water with you? To put it bluntly, isn't it just to treat others as fools?" Feng Shi said this and looked at Zhu Xiwen and others. "You should stop your losses immediately. If you follow her again, your trip will be in vain. As for the senior brothers who were poisoned, I think you are in good condition. You might as well use your spiritual power to temporarily suppress the poison. After you get out, you can find the Supreme Elder of the West to detoxify. As for whether it was poisoned by Huai Ming Frame, let the law enforcement hall investigate thoroughly after he gets out. Of course, if you believe me, you will be able to find the poison and antidote in Shen Jilin's storage ring if you restrain her. It's up to you to decide how to do it." Seeing that Zhu Xiwen and others were obviously shaken, Shen Jilin gritted her teeth and said, "Everyone, don't listen to Feng Zai's nonsense. My original intention of calling you together was to get more opportunities, and the facts have proven that what I said is true. Senior brother Ding Wenchang can't see anyone alive or dead now. We have to take down Feng Shi no matter what. I'll jump down first and you can do it yourself." Shen Jilin said and jumped into the river. She was forced by Feng Shi to have no choice but to take the lead. Moreover, she had the best water spread route, so she still had confidence in her heart. Some people followed Shen Jilin and jumped into the river, while others watched on the bank and did not enter the water. Feng Shi saw Shen Jilin getting closer and made a gesture of wiping her neck. "Shen Jilin, I advise you to go back immediately, or I will kill you. My patience has its limits. I used to tolerate you jumping up and down just to have fun and relieve boredom, but if you kick your nose and face, I will send you on your way." Shen Jilin felt chills all over her body. She somehow felt that Feng Shi was serious and she kept her word. Her movement stagnated, and she did not dare to continue swimming forward. Suddenly, she felt that this was too humiliating, and gritted her teeth and said, "Feng Shi, stop using your big words to bully others here. Leave senior brother Ding Wenchang to me, and I can let you go." Fang Shi chuckled and said, just admit it if you are cowardly, and stop making excuses here. You want Ding Wenchang, right? Here, give it back to you. The next moment, a huge fishtail emerged from the water and ejected a man to the shore. Zhu Zhiyun and others on the shore took a look and saw that it was Ding Wenchang who bounced up. However, they didn't judge it by their appearance, only by their clothing. Because Ding Wenchang's face was pitch black at this time, just like charcoal. Not even a hair is left. What happened? Could it be that he was struck by lightning in the river? How unlucky is this to be struck by lightning even in the river? Could what Fang Shi said be true? This Shen Zhilan is a bad guy, whoever gets close to her will be in trouble. At this time, Fang Shi said, except for Shen Zhilan, none of you have any grudges against me, so I can forget about it. But from this moment on, if anyone dares to attack those of us at Enlightenment Peak, I will never forgive him. Fang Sis, after Fang Shi finished speaking, his figure disappeared above the water. Shen Zhilan and others did not dare to chase, let alone dive into the water to see what happened. Shen Zhilan suppressed her fuming anger and said, Senior brother Ding's injury is serious, let's go up and take a look. Others followed and got off the donkeys and went ashore. After a while, Ding Wenchang woke up, but his western limbs were like ants crawling, and he felt indescribably uncomfortable, but he couldn't tell where he was uncomfortable. He scratched here and there like a monkey, which looked very funny. At this time, Zhu Zhiyun said to Shen Zhilan, Junior Sister Shen, thank you for taking care of us in Xuanwu Peak before, but we still have to rely on ourselves to find opportunities, so we say goodbye. We remember your favor and will definitely repay it if it is of use to us in the future. Shen Zhilan was filled with hatred in her heart, but she looked calm on the surface. Senior brother Zhu is serious, we are all from the same sect and should help each other. If you want to go it alone, please do so. Zhu Zhiyun and the people from Xuanwu Peak hugged Shen Zhilan and the others, then turned and left. At this time, Wang Bali, the captain of Baihu Peak, also said goodbye, and his words were similar to Zhu Zhiyun. Shen Zhilan also forced a smile and said a few kind words. To be honest, Yu Waiyu, the captain of Duke Peak, also wanted to leave, but Ding Wenchang and the other two wanted to stay, so he decided to wait and see. As for the captain of Qinglong Peak, Yu Waiyu, he had no intention of leaving. After all, Shen Zhilan was from Qinglong Peak, and they did get benefits from following Shen Zhilan. Shen Zhilan said immediately, my fellow disciples, thank you for your trust in me. Don't worry, I will definitely let you return home with a full load. Let's put aside the matter of Huai Ming frame for now. There is an opportunity not far from here. Let's go. After hearing Shen Zhilan's words, the atmosphere that was a little depressed just now suddenly became lively. You can easily get opportunities by following Junior Sister Zhilan. Zhu Zhiyun and others actually believed Fang Zai's lies. How stupid. At this time, Fang Shi and the others had reunited with Jing Yan and the others. After Jing Yan and the others ran out for a short distance, they jumped into the river when they saw the movement and swam quietly over. As soon as they met, Zheng Wen gave Jing Yan a thumbs up. Jing Laoshi, you are so good now, you can even create something out of nothing and make a fuss about it. No matter how hard you work, you can catch up to half of my skills. Jing Yan. Huai Ming said to himself, Zheng Wen also asked me not to raise my tail. What does this mean to him? Not only is the tail raised, the tail is also flying over the edge. At this time, Jiang Yan asked carelessly, Huai Ming frame, what is the poisoning that Shen Zhilan said about? Huai Ming frame immediately told what happened, and Jiang Yan suddenly cursed. I have long thought that Shen Zhilan is not a good person. If nothing else, he is obviously from the Hunyuan sect of the Northern Territory, but he has come to our Changsheng sect. Pooh, a good dog doesn't think the family is poor, so what? After finishing speaking, he later realized that these words reflected the meaning of Fang Shi and the other three, and he quickly added, don't worry too much, I'm talking about Shen Zhilan, not you. Fang Shi 3 people. You might as well not say the last sentence. Next chapter around 8 o'clock. The whole sect is a dog licking, but the junior sister is a real dog. Chapter 954, what do they envy you for? However, the 3 people in Fang Shi also knew that Jiang Yan was a coward who said what he said but didn't mean it, so they would not argue with him. Huai Ming frame knew it was time for him to appear. After all, he is the best at smoothing things over. He smiled and said, of course it's different. Shen Zhilan got on the pole by herself, and the captain and the others were invited by the sect master. They're distinguished guests of our Changsheng sect. Captain, Shen Zhilan and the others are gone, what should we do next? Fang Shi followed his words and said, Shen Zhilan is mainly targeting the 3 of us, our senior brothers and sisters. We should not cause trouble to other disciples of Enlightenment Peak, so we will just look for opportunities next. Senior brother Luo, senior brother Jiang, what are your plans? The reason why she said this was to give Luo Chen and Jiang Yan a way to follow them if they wanted to, and they would not be embarrassed if they didn't want to. Jiang Yan was careless and couldn't understand Fang Zai's intention, but Luo Chen understood it. He immediately said, Captain, of course we will follow you and do whatever you want. Jiang Yan echoed, that's right, we have met you, Captain, of course we have to follow you. Fang Shi said with a smile, okay, then let's go together. Huai Mingzhen felt happy because Fang Shi only asked Luo Chen and Jiang Yan if they would follow her but not him. What did this mean? It shows that he is one of our own. He finally broke into the camp of the 3 brothers and sisters. Do not. He is too small. He broke into the camp that saved Juyu continent. He wants to save the common people. He wants to be remembered forever. He will live forever. Ha, it seems that the wording is a bit inappropriate. When Huai Mingzhu was in a daze, Jiang Yan asked Fang Shi curiously, Captain, I saw a very big fish tail just now, why is it missing now? After Shen Zhilan left, Fang Shi put the violent moray eel into the monster bag, so Jiang Yan asked this question. Fang Shi said with a smile, it's a little pet of mine. I'll show it to you if you have the chance. Although Jiang Yan was a naive person, he also knew how to measure things. Seeing that Fang Shi was obviously unwilling to say more, he scratched his hair and stopped asking any more questions. At this time, Huai Ming Frame said, Captain, I heard what they said just now. It seems that Shen Jilin can find an opportunity in some way. How about we follow them and take a look? Let's have a mantis stalking the cicada with the oriole behind. Zhang Wen curled his lips. What you are thinking is quite beautiful. Although Zhu Xiun and the others are gone, there are still 20 people like Shen Jilin and the others. If we follow them, we may not necessarily know who is the oriole. Huai Ming Frame choked. This is true. Fang Shi was about to speak when Leng Budding saw a flash of grey in the water plants not far away. Her heart moved and she stepped closer. After a few pulls, nothing unusual was found. But Fang Shi felt that there must be something fishy here. Maybe it was the hiding place of those big grey fish. Could it be that there is a formation here? Fang Shi studied for a long time but couldn't figure out the reason. The other 5 people didn't do much research on the formation, so they could only stare at it with big eyes. Zhang Wen came over and said, Little junior sister, if there is a formation here, how did those big grey fish get in? They don't understand the formation, right? Fang's eyes heart moved, and she immediately used her spiritual consciousness to say to the violent moray eel, Give me the carcass of a big grey fish. The violent moray eel was a little reluctant. He finally managed to get some food reserves and had to donate one, but he didn't dare not listen. After a while, Fang Shi saw the body of a big grey fish with only half of it left. Fang Shi. You are so stingy. Fang Shi threw the half-sectioned body of the big grey fish near the grass, and clearly noticed the change in spiritual power. The moment the big grey fish body disappeared, Fang Shi, Zhang Wen and others jumped into the grass. Inside, the figure disappeared in an instant. After a feeling of weightlessness, the scene in front of Fang Shi's group changed. It was still in the water, but now it is in a valley. Not far from them was the body of half a big bird. Jiang Yan exclaimed, Captain, wasn't that half a fish you just threw in? Why did it turn into a bird? Am I hallucinating? After saying that, he pinched his thigh and grimaced in pain. Fang Shi also wondered why the body of a big grey fish turned into a bird. And this bird looks huge. Just then, a cooing sound sounded in the air. Fang Shi looked up and saw a large flock of grey birds circling overhead, blocking out the sky and the sun. She had an extremely bold guess in her mind. These big grey birds were transformed from those big grey fish. She thought of a legendary description. There is a fish in the North Ming dynasty, and its name is Kun. Kun is so big that I don't know how many thousands of miles it is. It turned into a bird, and its name is Peng. However, she had no time to think about it now, because those big grey birds had already swooped down with murderous intent in their eyes. Fang Shi wanted to escape, but she didn't know how to get out. The place they came in looked like any other place. Fortunately, the formation disc was usable, so she quickly started setting up the formation. While setting up the formation, she complained in her mind that she didn't know what could be used and what couldn't be used in the Haoshan mirror. It seemed to focus on doing whatever you wanted. But yes, there should be a formation at the entrance to this place, so it's not surprising that the formation disc can be used. The big grey birds began to attack the formation set up by Fang Shi again and again. The fire of revenge was burning in their hearts. They thought that there was no hope of revenge in this life, but they didn't expect that the smelly girl came to their door. If they let this damn girl escape in their lair, their lives would be in vain. Although there were many formation discs in Fang's ice storage ring, there were too many big grey birds. Almost as soon as a formation disc was opened, the previous one was broken. If it continues like this, it won't last very long at all. At this time, Fang Shi thought that she still had 5 golden feathered eagles. She is also a doctor for dead horses. What if they can fly here? So, Dejin was released. Dejin's eyes are so hungry. Seeing those big chubby grey birds made me laugh out loud. But after flapping its wings twice, it couldn't fly at all. Dakin was extremely disappointed. I thought my dream had come true, but I woke up before the dream even started. Fang Shi was not too surprised, because usually in the secret realm, foreign demonic birds were basically unable to fly. When she was about to put Dejin into the spirit beast bag, those big grey birds suddenly stopped attacking and all stared at Dejin. Fang Shi saw envy in their eyes. She was wondering, why did they envy Dejin? Do you envy Dejin for being contracted by her? Is her personality so charming now? Of course, she also knew that it couldn't be the reason. She asked Dejin, what do they envy you for? Dejin, are you envious of my good figure? After all, I am on a diet. Fang Shi. All of them are starving ghosts. Didn't I feed you Bigu pill? Didn't I feed you animal core? Didn't I feed you meat every 3 to 5 months? Seeing that he couldn't get anything out of Dejin, Fang Shi looked at the big grey bird squatting not far away and said with great pride. Are you envious of Dakin? Put forward your requirements and I will satisfy you. The big grey birds looked suspiciously, and then started cooing crazily. Jiang Yan said from the side, Captain, do they want to recognize you as their aunt? Fang Shi. The whole sect is a dog licking, but the junior sister is a real dog. Chapter 955 Please, be a human being. Fang Shi felt that Jiang Yan's words were completely off base. But when she thought about Killen's big boy, she felt that it wasn't so outrageous. Ugh. Sometimes people are troubled if they're too charming. In the past, there were unicorns who recognized their mothers, but now these big grey birds recognize their aunts. By the way, the blood demon tribe still insists on making her a saint. Fang Shi asked those big grey birds with a try mentality, do you want to recognize me as your aunt? The big grey birds thought she was crazy. Do we recognize you as our aunt? I'm afraid you don't want to eat shit. Fang Shi heard the negativity in their angry cooing. It seems that she is too passionate. So why do these big grey birds envy Dakin? Her eyes couldn't help but wander between Dejin and the big grey bird. Was she envious of Dejin's size? But the two are almost the same. Envy your cultivation. Although Dejin's cultivation level is higher than that of these big grey birds, he is not so envious, right? You can't envy Dejin because his feathers are golden, right? Ha. Sometimes the more impossible the answer, the more likely it is. She immediately asked those big grey birds, do you envy Dejin's feathers? The big grey birds' eyes suddenly lit up, they cooed and nodded desperately. Fang Shi. A bunch of superficial-looking dogs. However, it should not be said that Dakin's golden feathers look festive. By the way, the Haoshan mirror is also golden. She just likes the golden ones. When I see Jin Kankan, I think of gold. Daijin didn't expect those big grey birds to be envious of his golden feathers, and his confidence suddenly exploded. My neck, which was originally drooping because I couldn't eat any meat, was also raised. He also shook it deliberately to make the golden feathers look even more radiant. This made those big grey birds extremely envious. What they are most dissatisfied with is the grey feathers. Too tacky. It's so ugly. Everyone talks about the golden winged rock, but no one talks about the grey winged rock. They can't even imagine how beautiful they would look if they also had golden feathers. When they saw that Fang Shi was silent after asking, they suddenly started cooing in dissatisfaction. Fang Shi raised her hand. Quiet, quiet. The big grey birds were really obedient and suddenly became as quiet as chickens. Fang Shi put her hands behind her back and said, I'll give you two choices. The first choice is that I mix some dye to dye your wings gold, but this is a one-time use. When new feathers grow out, they will still be grey. It treats the symptoms but not the root cause. As for the second option, I will spend time and energy to help you prepare the elixir to turn your feathers completely golden. Even if new feathers grow out, they will also be golden. Which one do you choose? The big grey birds cooed non-stop. Any fool knows to choose the second option. Fang Shi raised her hand to signal them to shut up, and then said, It seems that you want to choose the second option, but the second option is time-consuming and labor-intensive, and it's hard to say whether it will be successful. Furthermore, we are here to look for opportunities, we can't waste our time helping you dye them. Unless, you can give us enough benefits, such as helping us find some opportunities, how about that? The big grey birds cooed in disgust, and then some of the big grey birds flew away. About an hour later, these big grey birds flew back and started unloading. Parchments, spiritual vessels, porcelain bottles, etc. were thrown all over the floor. Fang Shi. She just said it casually, thinking that she could get some herbs at most, but she didn't expect an unexpected surprise. Opportunities are indeed reserved for those who gather the wool. The eyes of several people in Huaiming frame almost popped out. Could these big grey birds have dug the grave of some powerful person? Otherwise, where would so many good things come from? At this time, Fang Shi picked up a parchment and flipped through it. It contained some prescriptions for elixirs. As soon as she finished reading, the parchment burned and turned into ashes. Fang Shi. I forgot about this. However, the West University family also sent her a lot of parchment rolls before, and they didn't spontaneously ignite. When she was confused, Jiang Yan stared at his eyes and said, Ha. I heard that a lot of parchments in the library were burned some time ago. Could it be you, Captain, who did it? Fang Shi. Shut up you. I don't even need to take you with me. Huaiming frame glared at Jiang Yan. What nonsense are you talking about? These parchments must be special, and they will self-destruct as long as someone looks at them. Captain, am I right? Fang Shi nodded approvingly. Or say that your boy has a future. I didn't even think of this reason. Jiang Yan scratched his hair and felt that Huaiming Zhen was different from before. Where is the difference? It seems more dog-legged. Fang Shi was afraid that the other parchments would spontaneously ignite, so she didn't continue to look through them. She didn't even need to wink at Zheng Wen, who quickly put everything into the storage ring. After collecting it, he said, I will collect it first, and when we get out, we will divide the stolen goods. Luo Chen and the other two, is it okay to share the spoils? They didn't have any objections. This thing was brought by the captain based on his ability. It had nothing to do with them. It was normal regardless of distinction. At this time, the big grey birds began to urge Fang Shi to quickly research the elixir that would change the color of their feathers. Fang Shi blinked and said, Researching elixirs is such a waste of time, why not do this? I have 5 golden feather eagles, you can intermarry. Your descendants might be golden feathers. Isn't this method better than taking pills? The big grey birds. Dakin and others. Please, be a human being. Can you please stop talking about this inhuman approach? Fang Shi continued to lobby those big grey birds. This method I mentioned will work once and for all. Think about it, even if I turn your feathers into gold, won't your descendants still be grey? You can't just care about yourselves and not care about the lives of future generations. The big grey birds obviously didn't want to confuse their bloodlines, and the angry Goo 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 refused. Da Jingxin said, You are not happy, but we are not happy either. With your ugly looks, are you worthy of our brothers? Fang Shi originally did not expect the big grey birds to agree to this method, but it was just to pave the way for herself. If a permanent dyeing method cannot be found, she will blame these big grey birds. I have shown you the way. If you don't agree, you can't blame me. Fang Shi signaled the big grey birds to be quiet, and then asked, Who among you is the bird king? One of the largest grey birds cooed a few times. Fang Shi nodded. Come here, I will make a contract with you. Bird king. Are you crazy? The whole sect is a dog licking, but the junior sister is a real dog. Chapter 956 Why is this? The bird king cooed angrily. Fang Shi said somewhat speechlessly. You asked me to develop a permanently dyed elixir, so I have to study you, right? If you don't make a contract with me, how can I sense your spiritual aura and prescribe the right medicine? We are all trapped here, are you still afraid that we will do something bad to you? Although Fang's eyes' words made sense, Bird King felt that there was a trap here. The reason why it can become the king of birds depends on this first awareness of seeking advantages and avoiding disadvantages. So, it randomly selected a big grey bird and signaled it to make a contract with Feng Shi. Although the big grey bird was unwilling, it did not dare to disobey the bird king's order, so it reluctantly signed a contract with Feng Shi. Feng Shi felt a little pity. She originally wanted to coerce the emperor to persuade the princes, but she didn't expect that the bird king was quite capable. It doesn't matter, you can get one at least and instigate it to rebel when the critical moment comes. Feng Shi pretended to study the big grey bird's consciousness for a while, then plucked out a feather from the big grey bird, and let the big grey bird put some blood in it and smell it. Immediately afterwards, I started tinkering with bottles and jars there. Jiang Yan asked Luo Chen in a low voice, "Can the captain really do it? Why do I feel a little hung up on it?" Huaiming Zhu came over and said, "Believe in Feng Shi and gain eternal life." Jiang Yan. Luo Chen. This kid seems to be getting more and more crazy. Feng Shi tinkered for a while and produced a large pot of dye. "Bird King, come here, I'll give you a temporary golden color to make you beautiful for a while." The Bird King agreed without hesitation. Because it really wants to have Dejin's golden feathers. Feng Shi called to Huaiming Zhen and others, "Come on, Tonies, come here. Dye the Bird King's feathers." A few people in Huaiming Frame are a little confused. Are they dragging their feet? Could it be that the captain was implying that they were dragging their feet in doing things? Then they have to be smarter this time and dye the Bird King's feathers quickly. They never dreamed that one day they would have to dye birds. They began to dye the feathers of the Bird King in a hurry. After a lot of work, I finally put all the dye on the feathers of the Bird King. Feng Shi asked the Bird King to stand there and not move. After an hour, you would find a water source to wash it, and it would have golden feathers. The Bird King was really obedient, standing there motionless, like a wooden pile. An hour later, the Bird King couldn't wait to fly away, probably looking for water. Seeing the direction in which the Bird King was flying away, Feng Zai's eyes flashed slightly. The direction in which the Bird King flew away should be the exit. After all, the underground river they entered was the source of water. Of course, although the chance is very small, it does not rule out that there are other water sources here. Half an hour later, the Bird King flew back. The cooing started all the way. The golden feathers looked like Saturn under the sunlight, making those big grey birds cry with envy. Too beautiful. It's so pretty. Even if it is only a short period of time, it is worth it. Then, everyone looked at Feng Shi longingly. After Feng Shi tinkered with another pot of dye, she called the big grey bird she had contracted with over, "Xiao Hui, I'll dye it for you this time." Although Xiao Hui didn't like the name very much, when he heard about dyeing it, he immediately started cooing with excitement. It seems that being contracted is not a bad thing. Xiao Hui soon enjoyed the very unprofessional service from several Tony masters. Fortunately, the effect is also very good. Seeing Xiao Hui's new golden feathers, many big grey birds felt sour. Ugh. If only they were the ones contracted. This is what Feng Shi wants. She had to make these big grey birds subconsciously feel that it was good to be close to her, so that they could be obedient. Next, Feng Shi stopped tinkering with dyes and started refining elixirs. She felt that this dyeing had the same principle as Yirong Dan, which was nothing more than changing the appearance, so she followed this path to explore. After spending a day and a night, Feng Shi finally worked out a recipe. Then, start refining the elixir. In just a quarter of an hour, the elixir was released. Jiang Yan and the other three were dumbfounded. This was the first time they saw someone making alchemy without putting the herbs in order, but stuffing them all into the alchemy furnace. It only took a quarter of an hour. The most outrageous thing is that the elixir yield rate is 100%, and they are all top-grade elixirs. How did they know that Feng Shi was flooded? Otherwise it would not just be a top-grade elixir, but a top-grade elixir. Feng Shi took out a pill and asked, "Who wants to give it a try?" Immediately, a big grey bird couldn't wait to express that he wanted to try. It is so greedy for the golden feathers of the Bird King and Xiao Hui. I decided to give it a try even if it was risky. Feng Shi immediately let him take the elixir, and then waited for the results, taking a break. Half an hour later, the big grey bird turned into a big grey duck. Feng Shi, Jiang Yan and others. Birds. The experimental bird collapsed and shouted, "Gah, gah, gah." Feng Shi comforted him, "Don't worry, I will refine the antidote for you right now, and I will guarantee that you will change back." Sure enough, after taking the antidote, the test bird returned to normal. Feng Shi originally thought that this failure would make the birds lose confidence in her, but she found that the birds looked at her with a bit of admiration. Feng Shi. You birds are really unconventional. How did she know that the big grey birds thought that Feng Shi could turn them into ducks with a small pill? She was so powerful. She is so powerful that she can definitely refine the elixir that turns them into golden feathers. In the next 2 days, Feng Shi kept adjusting the formula, but the results were not satisfactory. Although he turned the big grey bird into the appearance of other demonic birds, its feathers were always grey in color. Once, he even turned a big grey bird into a bald chicken. The big grey bird fainted on the spot. Feng Shi sighed, "King bird, I think maybe I'm not too excited, so my brain is not very flexible. If you go and get me some more treasures, maybe you'll have some inspiration." Although the Bird King thought her reason was a little outrageous, he still sent his men to get it done. Feng Shi soon received gifts from the birds. She cheered up and continued tinkering with the recipe, even testing it on herself, almost turning herself bald. The birds were really moved. Feng Shi didn't need to say anything, so he took the initiative to get a bunch of good things back for Feng Shi. Jiang Yan smacked his lips. What a chance our captain's vote will bring. I did a rough calculation, even for the top powerful cave, there must be 10 or 8, right? This has to be the wealthy one. If it's the poor one, there are probably dozens or hundreds of them. At the same time, Shen Jilin's face was as black as the ashes on the bottom of a pot. She successfully found several treasure places with people from Suzaku Peak and Kinglong Peak, but they were all empty, not even a fart. Why? What is this? The whole sect is a dog licking, but the junior sister is a real dog. Chapter 957 Fang Shi wears hair of 5 colors. Shen Jilin was angry and panicked. She was angry because she failed again and again, but she was panicked because the attitude of other people in the team towards her had changed significantly. They followed her just to look for opportunities, but after trying so hard to find the so-called treasure place, they found nothing. Everyone would have an opinion. Yu Waiyu, the captain of Duke Peak, frowned and said, "Junior sister Shen, everyone's time is limited. You are leaving us right and left in vain. We really can't afford to delay. Aren't you all lying to us about what you said before?" Shen Jilin secretly resented it. Why didn't you say anything when you got the benefits, but now you bring it up to accuse me? However, there was a look of guilt on his face. Senior brother Yu, what I said before was not a lie, and I don't know why this is the case. Originally, I wanted to lead you to get more opportunities, but in the end I did bad things with good intentions, and I really feel sorry for you. When she said this, she looked like she was about to cry. Immediately, an admirer jumped out and said, "Junior sister Jilin, you are kind-hearted to help, and it is not your fault that you can't find the opportunity. Maybe the time has not come yet, and we will be able to return home with a full load next time." "Yes, junior sister Jilin, we don't blame you. It's not available here, we can just look for it somewhere else. Maybe there were treasures in the cave originally, but they were taken away by fellow disciples from previous sessions. If we look for more places, we will definitely gain something." Ellipsis. Yu Waiyu also softened his tone. "Junior sister Shen, what I said just now was a bit harsh, but can you tell us why you can know where there is an opportunity? Don't worry, I definitely don't mean to covet you. I just want to help you analyze what went wrong." In fact, someone had asked Shen Jilin before, but Shen Jilin just smiled and said nothing, so no one asked further questions. Shen Jilin knew that if a clear answer was not given now, many people would probably choose to leave. She was silent for a moment and then said, "I didn't want to hide it before, but people may not believe it if I tell it. Ever since I entered the Haushan Mirror, I felt that someone somewhere was guiding me where I could have a chance. I originally thought it was ridiculous, but you have seen it before, and it did gain something. It's just that I don't know why I have failed time and time again in the past 2 days. If you think it's a waste of time to follow me, please feel free to do so." Yu Waiyu was hesitant after hearing Shen Jilin's words. After weighing it, he decided to wait and see for a day or two before making any plans. Most people have the same plan. Of course, those admirers were determined to be with Shen Jilin. On the other side, Fang Shi was refining elixirs with her colorful hair. Jiang Yan bared his big teeth and said to Luo Chen, "If nothing else, our captain's spirit of testing the medicine with his own body is really admirable." Just as Luo Chen was about to speak, Jiang Yan continued, "Senior brother Luo, what do you think if I dye my hair red? Let's get some good luck too. Luo Chen, you have this free time, why not practice hard? Didn't you see that Jing Yan and the others were meditating and practicing? The 5 big golden birds are also busy communicating with those big grey birds. They don't want to either." However, the unscrupulous master said this. "Since I took you in, have you made any contribution to me? You have eaten a lot of bigu pills and beast cores from me. Don't you feel you owe me something? Now we need you to step forward. You are here to push back and forth, do you still have a conscience? I didn't ask you to intermarry with them, I just asked you to formulate relationships with them. Isn't this difficult? Besides, I'm doing this for your own good. Although those big grey birds look a bit ugly, they can fight on land, water, and air, and they're much more powerful than you. You might gain something from communicating with them, and your cultivation level will skyrocket." Ellipsis. De Jinwu was deceived by Fang Shi Jujube and the big stick, and reluctantly communicated with those big grey birds. Although they are all birds, their languages are also different. Fortunately, Xiao Hui is in the middle as a translator, so the communication is smooth. De Jin felt that they were just like the unfavored princess in the story, who could only be forced to get married. Otherwise, why wouldn't the master let the little fat bird do this job? Isn't Phoenix more stylish? It didn't even think about it. The little fat bird was now as fat as a little hen. Could those big grey birds take a fancy to it? Dakin started the road of social bird with a tragic mood. Not to mention, it really has a gift for language. In just half a day, it can communicate with those big grey birds without the need for Xiao Hui to translate. De Jin described the outside world vividly. Although the big grey birds listened with interest, they did not look forward to it. Dai Jin thought the same thing. These big grey birds have special physiques. They're sometimes birds and sometimes fish. It is really difficult to find a place to stay outside. Besides, no matter how nice it is outside, it's not as good as freedom. Ever since I followed an unscrupulous master, not only have I been forced to maintain a slim figure all year round, but I have also been forced to be a social bird. It makes me cry just talking about it. De Jin deliberately brought the topic to those treasures. Those big grey birds may not have interacted with foreign birds all year round. They were all naive and simple, and spoke without any precautions. There are many caves on the other side of the mountain, and they're full of these things. There were some herbs, fruits, etc., but we ate them all, and only these rags were left. In the eyes of these big grey birds, these things can't be eaten or used, so aren't they just junk? The only function now is to exchange for a set of golden feathers. After Fang Shi learned about this situation, she became even more motivated. Holding a rainbow head and making alchemy. Finally, she refined a batch of satisfactory elixir. She looked at the birds. Who is going to test the medicine? Silence fell. In fact, these big grey birds were very motivated to participate in the experiment at first, but after a big grey bird took the elixir and turned into a bald chicken, they became a little timid. Although the bald chicken later grew feathers after taking the elixir, that was also dark history. Fang Shi simply ordered a big grey bird and said, "You come and eat it." The big grey bird swallowed the elixir with a mentality of looking forward to death. The next moment, he choked and fainted. The other big grey birds suddenly became frightened. Good thing they weren't selected. However, they soon changed their minds. Because of the fainted grey bird, the color of its feathers slowly changed from grey to yellow, and finally turned into a dazzling golden color. The bird suddenly became restless. She did it. She actually refined the elixir that turned their feathers completely golden. She is the god. The whole sect is a dog licking, but the junior sister is a real dog. Chapter 958 I Never Lie to Birds. To express their excitement, the birds cooed around Fang Shi. He screamed and jumped at the same time, creating a whirlwind. Fang's eyes' rainbow hair was blown into an afro. Fang Shi roared angrily, and the birds became quiet. The big grey birds were like a flock of erring little quails, hanging there with their wings drooped and their heads lowered. If the gods were unhappy, they might not be given the elixir. They have to make birds with their tail between their legs. Fang Shi used the cleaning technique several times and combed the messy hair before saying, "As you can see, this elixir has been successfully developed. However, there is a very critical problem now. The number of herbs in my storage ring is not enough to refine enough gold-dyed elixirs. I will give you two choices. The first choice is that I will refine all the remaining herbs. I estimate that I should be able to refine about 30 pills. Then you will draw lots to decide who owns the pills." There was a commotion among the birds. 30 pieces. There are hundreds of them. This amount of elixir is not enough to fill the gaps between teeth. If you don't win, wouldn't you be happy in vain? It would have been okay before, after all, everyone was always grey, but now that the birds have turned golden, they can't stand it anymore. We are all birds, why can they become beautiful and we have to stay ugly? Fang Shi raised her hand. "Shut your mouth. Don't interrupt me when I speak from now on. Do you hear me?" The big grey birds quickly closed their mouths and nodded wildly. Jiang Yan was singing his big tooth music, and the captain seemed to have become the king of birds. Fang Shi continued. "Now let me tell you the second option. There are also many herbs in this house and mirror. Although the types may not be complete, I can also use other herbs with similar effects instead. So a few of us will go out to collect herbs first, and when we have collected enough, we will come back to help you refine the dying elixir. What do you think?" There was another commotion among the big grey birds. Fang Shi raised her hand, and the birds suddenly became quiet. "Are you afraid that I won't keep my word and slip away without coming back?" "Don't worry about this. I always keep my word and never lie. I will definitely do what I promised you. Of course, if you are worried, you can send a few birds to follow us out to supervise us. Do you think carefully about which one to choose?" After Fang Shi finished speaking, she did not continue to persuade and let the birds make their own choices. The bird king took the big grey birds and flew far away and started cooing. The bird king also threatened Xiao Hui not to talk nonsense. Xiao Hui feels that the bird king underestimates it. Although since the contract, the temporary owner has secretly fed it a lot of delicious food, and her spiritual pets are also very friendly, but it is a principled golden-winged rock, how could it turn its back on its own kind? Since ancient times, it is difficult to have both loyalty and filial piety, so it can only be sorry for its temporary owner. The big grey birds cooed and finally made a decision. Fang Shi asked the bird king, "How do you choose?" A hint of cunning flashed in the bird king's eyes, and he cooed. Xiao Hui translated the words of the bird king to Fang Shi, which probably meant that they chose the second option, but there was an additional condition, which was to keep the 5 big golds as bird hostages. If Fang Shi returns safely, everyone will be happy. If Fang Shi doesn't keep his promise, Daijin and the others will have no chance of living. Even if Fang Shi wanted to refuse, even if she forced Daijin and the others to act as social birds, it was impossible for them to take this risk. Unexpectedly, Daijin actually said to her through his spiritual consciousness, "Master, we are willing to stay." Fang Shi. Are you crazy? Or is it a little female that you fell in love with when you were a social bird? Want to stay for love? Daijin explained, the cultivation methods of these dapping birds are very useful for us to improve our cultivation, so we want to communicate more with them. Furthermore, flying is prohibited inside the house and mirror. Even if we follow you out, we can't help. We might as well be a hostage here, and at least we can make some contribution to you, the master. Fang Shi asked again and again to make sure that Daijin was speaking from his heart, and then agreed. After some bargaining between Fang Shi and the bird king finally decided to send 10 big grey birds to follow Fang Shi out, while Daijin and the other 5 stayed behind. After reaching a friendly agreement, Fang Shi began to refine the dying elixir. For the safety of Daijin and the others, she kept a backup plan. She did a little trick when refining the dying elixir. If the bird king goes back on his word after she leaves, Daijin can use this to blackmail the bird king. Daijin and the others were very touched. Although their unscrupulous owners often let them starve, they were still very kind to them. Besides, although they were not given meat to eat, they were given bigu pills and beast cores after all. If you want to blame them, they're too greedy. Thinking of this, Daijin and the others suddenly felt that Fang Shi was the best master in the world. The fact that their heads were contracted by her meant that their ancestral tombs were struck by lightning. It has to be said that Fang's eyes spiritual pets all have the ability to comfort themselves. Fang Shi handed the dying gold pill to the bird king, and asked the bird king openly, "Where did you get those parchments and stuff? Can you take us to see them?" The bird king readily agreed and said that he would just take him out on the way. Fang's eyes heart moved. It seems that the treasure is hidden outside the formation. She immediately contracted 9 big grey birds, which together with the little grey birds from before made exactly 10. Then he asked Luo Chen and others to sit on the backs of several big grey birds, and followed the bird king to fly into the air. Dajinwu looked up from the ground, feeling a little uncomfortable. However, he soon cheered up and started chatting with the remaining big grey birds. Cuckoo. Li Li Li. Fang Shi sat on Xiao Hui's back and looked at the surrounding terrain. There are many mountains in the distance, which is probably where the cave that the big grey bird mentioned is located. In addition, she saw a wide river, which should be a tributary of the underground river. In this way, there are two ways from this valley to the outside world, one is by water and the other is by land. I just don't know where the formation from the valley came from. Could it be the artifact of the Haoshan mirror? While Feng Shi was thinking about this, Jiang Yan and Luo Chen were still in shock. Not only did they leave safely, but the captain also had 10 more big grey birds as helpers. There is no flying here, and there is no way to control the sword. With these 10 big grey birds, not to mention Shen Zhilan gathered 20 people, even 200 people are no match for them. The captain's brief introduction is so cool. No wonder Huai Ming Frame is so crazy, they're also a little crazy now. At this time, Shen Zhilan was leading the people from Qinglong Peak and Suzaku Peak to the treasure place, wheezing and panting. This time she deliberately chose a cave that was the furthest away, the most difficult to walk, and required climbing a cliff to get up. She felt that this time it would definitely not fail. After all, the terrain is difficult and difficult for ordinary people to get up. This time, she is bound to win. The whole sect is a dog licking, but the junior sister is a real dog. Chapter 959. Feng Shi painted a painting. Feng Shi sat on Xiao Hui's back. Xiao Hui felt a little guilty for not informing Feng Shi and started to look for words. This is my first time flying with people on my back, and I don't have much experience. What do you think? Feng Shi smiled and said, it's not bad, it's more stable than my own sword. Xiao Hui thought to himself, isn't it said that human swordsmanship is quite stable? Why did the temporary owner say it would be safe to fly without it? You didn't say that to comfort it, did you? Xiao Hui's original guilt was amplified. If you like the junk in the cave, I will take you to find it. I'm not bragging, I know all the large and small caves nearby. There were some herbs and fruits in the cave, but we ate them all, leaving only the tatters. Feng Shi secretly scolded these big grey birds for being ignorant, but suddenly a question came to his mind and he asked. Did the herbs and fruits not deteriorate if they were placed in the cave? Or is there a formation in the cave? Xiao Hui immediately said, I don't know if there is a formation, but we jumped in easily. The herbs and fruits were placed in the jade box. After we ate the food, the jade box was thrown into the hole. Do you think it's strange or not? Those jade boxes suddenly disappeared for some unknown reason some time ago. They were probably taken away by some unscrupulous person. Feng Shi suddenly thought of a possibility, then silently took out a jade box and asked Xiao Hui, does it look familiar? Xiao Hui twisted the bird's neck and looked at it, then fell silent. Feng Shi also fell silent. After a while, Xiao Hui said, you may have misunderstood just now. What I said was that it was probably taken away by some kind person. Feng Shi. Are even birds' emotional intelligence so high now? How are you sure this is the jade box in the cave? Seeing that Feng Shi was not angry, Xiao Hui breathed a sigh of relief and said, because I remember that the pattern on the jade box was like this. I told my companions at the time that the human race was too busy to make a broken jade box and carve such complicated patterns. Feng Shi automatically filtered out the nonsense behind Xiao Hui. She wondered in her heart, could it be that the jade box she got at the gate of the Changsheng Sect was not a reward from the ancestor, but the tatters in Xiao Hui's mouth? Why do the things in the Haoshan mirror appear near the mountain gate of the Changsheng Sect? But considering the giant beasts can appear in the selection trial, it doesn't seem too strange that the jade box appears near the mountain gate. Could it be the artifact of the Haoshan mirror? Are you deliberately playing with it? It is good. Very good. If this thing was really done by the Haoshan mirror's weapon spirit, she would let it know what it means to be sinister in the world and what it means to regret. Of course, there is another possibility, that is, this kind of jade box was originally produced in batches, and everything was just a coincidence. After a moment of anger, she calmed down and thought of another question. Why are the jade boxes in those caves all the same? She asked Xiao Hui, what else is there besides those things in those caves? Are there any skeletons? Xiao Hui said regretfully, no. We specially searched for it back then. Even if there is no human flesh to eat, we can just eat some bones to taste it. Feng Shi, still eating human bones. I can't choke you to death. However, when she thought about the big grey fish she killed, she seemed to have a double standard when saying this. At this time, the little black bull said, Master, if there is a skeleton frame, then these things should be placed in the storage ring instead of being placed in the cave. Feng Shi thought the same thing, so where did these things come from? Could it be that the spirit of the Haoshan mirror was released? Is it prepared for the disciples who enter the Haoshan mirror trial? It's not impossible. How come Qi Ling has so many treasures? It seems that there are many secrets in this Haoshan mirror. At this time, Feng Shi noticed fluctuation of spiritual power, and a transparent barrier appeared in front of him. Before she could take a closer look, Xiao Hui flew over with her in a sprint. Feng Shi looked back and saw that there was no valley like before, only rolling mountains. The Bird King asked Xiao Hui to tell Feng Shi that most of the caves nearby had been plundered by them, leaving only the largest cave on the cliff, which contained a lot of rags. Of course, there are caves in other places, but they're far away, so the Bird King will not follow them. Feng Shi naturally had no objection, since Xiao Hui and the others knew how to go. So, the Bird King took Feng Shi and the others to the cave on the cliff. As soon as they entered, the eyes of Jiang Yan and others almost popped out. There are spiritual weapons, parchment scrolls, array discs scattered on the ground. The treasures that had been robbed outside were scattered here like rags. Feng Shi didn't bother to take a closer look and asked Zhang when to put everything into the storage ring. Don't beep when you see something good, it's the right thing to collect it quickly. Otherwise, there will be long nights and many dreams, and it won't necessarily be whose name it is in the end. After careful inspection, several people found that nothing was missing. Just when they were about to leave, Feng's eyes flashed. She took out her dagger and drew an orchid on the cave wall, and drew a broom and a star next to it. Then I took out some powder and applied it on it a few times. The pattern looked very simple. Jiang Wen and Huai Mingzhen almost burst out laughing. Luo Chen and Jing Yan were more reserved and just smiled. Only Jiang Yan looked confused and kept asking Huai Mingzhi. What are you laughing at? Huai Mingzhen laughed and said, isn't it true that the captain painted Shen Jilin as the broom star? Shen Jilin said before that she would lead people to look for opportunities, and maybe she would find them here. When I see this, ha ha ha, no, I want to laugh when I think of that scene. Only then did Jiang Yan realize that he was happily grinning. The captain is so talented. The kingbird doesn't understand what they're laughing at and doesn't want to understand. He is anxious to go back and take charge of the overall situation. The dyed gold elixir in its hand is not ready to be distributed for the time being, because it is likely to cause conflicts. It will wait until Feng Shi comes back from collecting herbs before dividing it. Its ability to become the bird king depends not only on its cultivation but also on its brains. Of course, this has nothing to do with the fact that his father is the king of birds. When the bird king was leaving, he said to Feng Shi, no matter what happens, you have to ensure the safety of my subordinates, otherwise you won't even think about your 5 bird hostages. Of course, Xiao Hui translated these words for Feng Shi. After the bird king finished speaking, he hurried away. Feng Shi thought it was in a hurry to go back and eat the dyed gold elixir, so she didn't think much about it. She said to Xiao Hui, let's go, take me to find other caves. Xiao Hui immediately said, those caves are very far away, you have to be mentally prepared. It doesn't matter if you stay far away, let's go. Xiao Hui's eyes flickered and he took off. About half an hour after flying out, Xiao Hui said to Feng Shi, Master, I have to tell you something. Feng Shi had a vague premonition in her heart, what's going on? Next chapter around 8:30. The whole sect is a dog licking, but the junior sister is a real dog, chapter 960 they can do it. Xiao Hui said with a slumped belly. You also know that we are coon in the water and golden winged rocks on land. Therefore, we have to stay in the water for a while every once in a while, otherwise our size will quickly shrink. Feng Shi, how long? It's been a long time, just one day. Feng Shi, how small will it become? It's not that small, just as big as a chicken. Feng Shi. Are you sure the chick isn't too young? Do you have no concept of size at all? No wonder there were fewer of those big grey birds from time to time. She thought she was going on patrol, but ended up taking a bath. No wonder the bird king ran away like he was on fire just now. It turned out to be a guilty conscience. But thinking about the tricks she did on the dyed gold elixir, it seems to be even. Xiao Hui thought that Feng Shi would be furious, but he found that Feng Shi was very calm. The temporary owner is so generous, so tolerant. In comparison, their bird kings are a bit unorthodox. Then, it heard Feng Shi calmly say, although there is no water here, there are icebergs. From now on, you can lie down on the icebergs to cool down and relieve your fatigue. Small Grey. Are you sure that we lying down on the iceberg are recovering from fatigue and not being solved? Are you sure we won't turn into frozen fish? Although it was unwilling in its heart, it did not dare to say anything because it was wrong. Icebergs are just icebergs. In the worst case, they will just huddle together to keep warm. Come out immediately when the time is up. In order to stagger the time for the big grey birds to take a bath, Feng Shi first let 5 big grey birds enter the spread beast bag containing the iceberg. Among them is Xiao Hui, the chosen one. Although Xiao Hui and the other big grey bird were mentally prepared, they were still very cold. God, they've never been this cold in their lives. On weekdays, they have been to some snowy mountain tops out of curiosity, but they always took one look and flew away. They have never stayed for such a long time, let alone lying on the ice. Besides, they're usually soaked in water. Will lying on ice work? But this time, Feng Shi told them the story of lying on the ice to beg for carp. Xiao Hui, the protagonist in other people's stories can melt ice naked, you as the golden winged rock can definitely do it too. When the ice turns into water, you can have a nice bath. Work harder, I'm optimistic about you. Small Grey. It may have been blind before. Does this temporary master have anything to do with tolerance? But even now, I can only lie down on the ice and melt the iceberg with my body temperature. Feng Shi looked at the 5 big grey birds that were as cold as grandsons, and said in a serious voice. I am doing this for your own good. Your life was too comfortable before, which is not conducive to your improvement in cultivation. If nothing else, you are far behind Da Jin. You call yourself the golden winged dapping in vain. Remember, when heaven is about to assign a great responsibility to a bird, it must first harden its mind. After Xiao Hui and the others listened to Feng Zai's teaching, deception, they suddenly felt very ashamed. It turns out that the temporary owner has good intentions. They actually suspected that she was retaliating. They should be damned. Isn't it just a cold spot? It's not a big deal. They can do it. Feng Xi used her spiritual consciousness to pay attention to the situation of Xiao Hui and the others. If they couldn't hold on, she would definitely release them. However, she thought there should be no problem. Not to mention the big grey bird, even ordinary monsters would not freeze to death in a short time. Sure enough, Xiao Hui and the others gradually adapted. Feng Shi felt relieved when he saw this. At this time, Jiang Wen said, Little junior sister, we didn't see Shen Jilin and the others all the way here. I'm afraid the paintings you left in the cave won't be used. Feng Shi said nonchalantly, even if it's not used, it doesn't matter, just use it to beautify the environment. Jiang Wen. At this time, Shen Jilin and others were sweating profusely and fearfully climbing the cliff, trying to enter a cave above. It is forbidden to fly here. If you fall down midway, the consequences will be disastrous. Finally, they entered the cave. Seeing the empty cave, many people collapsed on the ground. On the one hand, I am too tired, on the other hand, I am disappointed, even desperate. Especially the captain of Suzaku Peak, Yu Waiyu, he regretted extremely that he should have left decisively before, instead of choosing to continue to follow Shen Jilin. A few people were not willing to search far and wide, and one of them exclaimed. Everyone, come and look, there is a painting here. Everyone immediately cheered up, and Shen Jilin breathed a sigh of relief. No matter what was painted on the wall, she had to tie it to chance, so that Yu Yu and others could continue to follow her. She walked to the stone wall with good wishes. When she saw the painting, her face suddenly turned pale. Then it turned green. Then it became red. Angry. Feng Shi. It must be something good done by that bitch Feng Shi. Maybe the treasure in the cave was stolen by her. At this time, everyone else's eyes were all on the painting, and they did not notice the change in Shen Jilin's face. At this time, someone said, "What does this painting mean? Could it be to guide us where there is a treasure? Broom. Stars. Could it be a broom star? This orchid?" There was deathly silence in the cave. These people are not fools, so they naturally think of what Feng Shi said, Shen Jilin is a broom star. Now that such a painting appears in the cave, is it possible that this is the Haoshan mirror reminding them? Many people subconsciously took a few steps back, wanting to stay away from Shen Jilin to avoid being implicated. Shen Jilin and Jane Capital are going crazy. This painting must have been painted by Feng Shi. She just wants to destroy my reputation. She must have stolen all the treasures in the cave. Let's go find her now to settle the score. As soon as she said these words, Yu Yu said coldly. Junior sister Shen, Feng Shi was in the river before, and this cliff is far away from the river. How could she arrive here before us? What you say is so ridiculous. From now on, we should each find our own opportunities. Farewell. Immediately, several people began to agree and asked to say goodbye. Shen Jilin was so angry that she couldn't produce any evidence that Feng Shi had done this painting. She was heartbroken. Senior brother Yu, I can understand how you feel at this time. After all, I have let everyone down once again. I guarantee that it will be foolproof next time, because there is a barrier where the treasures of heaven and earth grow, and only the blood of the eight-tailed snow fox can open it. There is only one eight-tailed snow fox in the world, so no one but me can enter there. Of course, if senior brother Yu insists on leaving, I won't stop you. I will just take the others. The whole sect is a dog licking, but the junior sister is a real dog. Chapter 961 Feng Shi can believe that she was deceived by a bird. Yu Yu weighed it again and again, and then said to Shen Jilin. Junior sister Shen, we can only stay in the Haoshan mirror for 1 month, and I was too anxious just now to speak too seriously. Since you are confident, let's go together. Others also stopped talking. After all, Shen Jilin looked confident. It would be a big loss for them if they didn't follow her. Shen Jilin sneered in her heart, but she looked magnanimous and open-minded. They rested in the cave for a while before leaving. Before leaving, Shen Jilin's admirer scraped off the paintings on the stone wall. Although the paintings on the stone walls have been scraped off, they have taken root in the hearts of these people. On the other side, Feng Shi was asking Xiao Hui, who had just taken a bath in ice water, how far is it to the cave you mentioned? Yeah, it's not that far. It will probably arrive in a day or two. When Feng Shi saw it stammering, she knew there was something fishy going on, and she suddenly had an ominous premonition in her heart. She suddenly thought of a question. This place is already far away from the previous river. If according to what Xiao Hui said, the cave is still a day or two away from here, how did it get there before? After all, it only needs to be soaked in water for a day or so. Although it can fly even after its shrunken body, wandering around in the sky with such a small body is no different than dying. If you encounter a monster bird, you will show it off. So, it's lying. The cave it refers to does not exist at all. Feng Shi Jianshu couldn't believe that he had been deceived by a bird. Ugh. It was true that people died for wealth and birds died for food. She was also dazzled by the treasures in the cave, so she easily believed the words of the Bird King and Xiao Hui. It seems that she can take this as a warning in the future. When Xiao Hui saw what happened in Dongchuang, he was trembling like a sieve. It is also forced to have no choice. Even if the King of Birds asks him to do this, he dare not disobey. As the saying goes, it has been difficult to have both loyalty and filial piety since ancient times, so it can only be sorry for its temporary owner. It cried an apology, and 9 other large grey birds followed suit. Feng Shi was not too angry. After all, he had received gifts from many birds, and he was satisfied. However, there was a chilling look on her face. Although I only have a temporary master-pet relationship with you, I regard you as my own spiritual pets. Not to mention anything else, just how much seafood have you eaten? What you eat in 1 meal is more than what Dakin eats in a year. But how did you repay me? You guys really disappoint me. It chills me so much. Xiao Hui and the others were already feeling guilty, and now they were even more guilty of themselves. They wished they could give Feng Shi a few atonements. At this time, Little Black Ball said, what's the use of you just apologizing? You have to use practical actions to make up for your mistakes. For example, do you know where to find good stuff? It doesn't matter if there is no cave but only natural materials and earthly treasures. Although Feng Shi didn't express anything, Xiao Hui knew that what he said touched her heart. The little Miu Gulu ball is the favorite of an unscrupulous owner, so it's certainly not ordinary. After hearing what Little Black Ball said, Xiao Hui and the others began to rack their brains to figure out where to find good things. After a while, Xiao Hui's eyes lit up and he said, I remembered, there is a barrier not far from our bird's nest, and it's full of delicious food. Every time I get hungry, I just run there and take a look through the barrier to enjoy it. Feng Shi. How can you, a bird, look at plum blossoms to quench your thirst? See what you can do. She asked Xiao Hui, when you say delicious, do you mean the treasures of heaven and earth? Xiao Hui nodded, yes, they're all good things to eat. That barrier must be tens of thousands of years old at least, because I saw many purple haze fruit trees inside. It takes at least 30,000 years for these things to bear fruit, and the ones inside have all bear fruit. Feng Shi. Quick, take me there. Xiao Hui is a little confused. It's okay to go, but the barrier is very strong. The humans you came in before also wanted to enter, but they all ended in failure. I'm afraid that if you go, it will be in vain. Fang Shi sighed. No matter if it works or not, I have to give it a try. It's not that I'm greedy for money, it's mainly because there are probably herbs in it that can be used to refine the golden elixir. Before Fang Shi could finish speaking, Xiao Hui turned around and flew back, whoosh. Fang Shi. When it comes to dying gold elixir, why do you change from being chronic to being impatient? Jun Wen and others were puzzled. Little junior sister, why are we going back now? Fang Shi told the story without hiding anything. Jiang Yan bared his big teeth and said, Captain, you are so smart, how come you were deceived by a bird? Were you considered smart but you were deceived by your cleverness? Fang Shi, I regret taking you with me for the 100th time. Although this Jiang Yan was hot-tempered in the past, he was still not 250. Why is he so careless recently? Little did she know that in the past, Jiang Yan treated Fang Shi as an outsider and had to think carefully before speaking. Now that he treated Fang Shi as his backbone, he no longer had so many scruples and could just say whatever came to his mind. At this time, Huai Ming Frame said to Jiang Yan, What do you know? Our captain regards these golden winged rocks as his spiritual pets, so he has unreserved trust in them. As the saying goes, the person closest to you hurts the most. Our captain must feel uncomfortable right now. If you still rub salt into her wounds, are you still a human being? Jiang Yan. I didn't seem to say anything. Why did you just give me the outline and go online? Xiao Hui and the others were already guilty, but now they feel even more guilty. Make up your mind to hit the barrier for Fang Shi wherever you go. Regardless of whether they can be broken, at least they can contribute. Fang Shi glanced at Huai Ming Frame with admiration. Although she didn't say anything, everything was unspoken. Huai Ming Frame felt happy, but Jun Wen felt sour. Although he knew that Huai Ming Frame would never be able to surpass him no matter how hard he performed, he still felt a sense of crisis. He has to keep working hard. As the saying goes, life never ends and admiration never stops. The next chapter will be around 9 o'clock. The whole sect is a dog licking, but the junior sister is a real dog. Chapter 962 The Eight-Tailed Snow Fox wants to terminate the contract. After half a day, Yu Waiyu and the others finally arrived at the good place Shen Jilin said. The barrier is transparent, and the situation inside is clear. Seeing the countless treasures of heaven and earth inside, everyone couldn't help but exclaim. Shen Jilin's admirers said in a hurry. How about it? I told you that junior sister Jilin won't lie to us. It was just a small mistake before. Now that this barrier is in front of you, some people have nothing to say, right? Junior sister Jilin is so generous. If it were anyone else, she would have turned against us. After all, we don't owe anything to them, so why should we be so angry? Junior sister Jilin, don't worry, no matter what happens, I will always stand by your side. Ellipsis. Yu Waiyu and others are a little uncomfortable, but they don't care about so much now. The most important thing is to find a way to enter the barrier and get those heavenly materials and earthly treasures. Shen Jilin was very proud. As long as she brought Yu Waiyu and the others into the barrier, they would be completely convinced by her. Fang Shi, even if you are used to using conspiracy and tricks, you will only be trampled under my feet in the end. Shen Jilin thought as she released the eight-tailed snow fox. The most important thing to open this barrier is the hard work of the eight-tailed snow fox. She used her spiritual consciousness to say to the eight-tailed snow fox, take your heart's blood and lend it to me. The eight-tailed snow fox did not hesitate at all. Master, I need to use my magical power to take out the purest blood from my heart, but I have to use the spiritual energy of heaven and earth to do that. You have to let me out first. Although Shen Jilin felt it was a bit troublesome, she still released the eight-tailed snow fox. Yu Waiyu and others were stunned when they saw the eight-tailed snow fox, because the eight-tailed snow fox looked weaker than before. When Shen Jilin saw this, she sighed. As you know, its foundation was damaged by Fang Shi, so even though I treated it with all my heart, it was still very weak. If it weren't for the opportunity that everyone could get this time, I wouldn't be willing to let it take heart blood. After all, it would make its body worse. Fortunately, there are a lot of natural and earthly treasures in this barrier. It should be no big deal if we let it eat more. Shen Jilin's admirers immediately said. Junior sister Jilin, you are so selfless. Don't worry, when you get in, you will pick out the treasures first, and we will take the rest. Yu Waiyu and others had no objection to this. After all, Shen Jilin took the greatest credit for being able to enter the barrier. It was rare for Shen Jilin to see the eight-tailed snow fox being more pleasing to the eye. This useless thing finally came in handy. She looked at the eight-tailed snow fox. Let's start. The eight-tailed snow fox said to her, Master, there are too many people and the mixed spiritual energy is not conducive to my heart blood. Can I go aside and use my magical power? Shen Jilin was in a good mood now, so she readily agreed. The eight-tailed snow fox staggered to a distance of about 100 feet from everyone, and then began to sit cross-legged and meditate like a human. Many people were surprised to see it. It was the first time for them to see a monster cultivating like this. Seeing that half an hour had passed and the eight-tailed snow fox was still meditating there, Shen Jilin became a little impatient and urged. What are you talking about? Why don't you hurry up and get the heart blood? The eight-tailed snow fox said feebly, Master, I am too weak to use my magical powers, so I have to absorb some spiritual energy from heaven and earth first. Shen Jilin had no choice but to continue waiting. Although Yu Waiyu and others were anxious, they couldn't say anything and waited with Shen Jilin. However, their attention was basically focused on the treasures inside the barrier, and they were thinking about how to quickly get the most valuable things after entering. At this moment, someone inadvertently looked up and exclaimed. Look, what are those? Shen Jilin and others immediately looked up to the sky and saw 5 big grey birds flying in the distance. These big grey birds are at least in the early stages of becoming gods. Although their cultivation is not very high, they are in the sky and we are on the ground. If they attack us, they will definitely cause us some trouble. Take a closer look. Is there anyone on the back of that big grey bird? There really is someone. I was far away and I didn't notice it, but now I'm closer and I see it. Why do I feel that the person in the front looks a bit like Fang Shi? Ellipsis. When Shen Jilin and others all looked up at the big grey birds, a look of determination flashed in the eyes of the eight-tailed snow fox. It has had enough of the so-called master's torture. If she doesn't save herself, it will die in her hands sooner or later. Therefore, even if it pays a huge price, it must take a gamble. It immediately bit open one of its front paws, and then quickly formed a seal. A blood hole immediately appeared on its chest, and a drop of heart blood spattered on the barrier. The next moment, the eight-tailed snow fox ducked into the barrier, and then quickly formed another seal. The remaining blood on the barrier instantly turned into nothingness, and the barrier closed. At this time, Shen Jilin and others also discovered the abnormality belatedly. Shen Jilin looked at the eight-tailed snow fox in the barrier in disbelief. She thought something had happened to the eight-tailed snow fox while taking the heart blood, and said in a bad tone, "What happened?" The eight-tailed snow fox changed its submissive manner in front of her and let out a sharp roar. It used its spiritual consciousness to say to Shen Jilin, "What's going on? I want to terminate my contract with you, and I want to get rid of this vicious villain like you. Back then, you hatched me in advance for your own selfish reasons and I was born with deficiencies. Not only did you not feel guilty, but you disliked me for it. Even if you dislike me, you actually abused me, causing me to be covered in bruises. You, a vicious woman, are not worthy of being my master. Don't you want to enter this enchantment?" Next life. After the eight-tailed snow fox finished speaking, he quickly ran forward. Shen Jilin and Jane Capital are going crazy. She immediately used her consciousness to use the power of the contract to punish the eight-tailed snow fox. She felt that a bitch like the eight-tailed snow fox would only obey if it hurts. The eight-tailed snow fox was indeed in pain, and its entire sea of consciousness was shaking violently, but it still ran forward, even though its 7 orifices were already bleeding. Even if it means death, it must leave this bad woman Shen Jilin. It finally ran under a tree. The tree was full of purple fruits. It picked one and swallowed it whole. The pain in the sea of consciousness subsided slightly. It quickly swallowed 3 more pills, and then began to sit cross-legged and meditate, forcibly peeling off the contract mark left by Shen Jilin on its sea of consciousness. Even if this will cause its cultivation to fall to the chi refining stage, even if it may cost it its life, it will not hesitate. Shen Jilin's eyes were full of resentment. "You want to die, right? I'll make it happen for you." When she was about to strengthen the divine mark of her main pet contract, someone in midair said crisply, "Broom Star, what are you doing?" The sound of Broom Star immediately reminded Shen Jilin of the paintings on the stone wall, and she suddenly became angry and looked up. She saw Fang Shi sitting on a big grey bird, looking at her with a smile. Shen Jilin gritted her teeth and said, "Fang Shi, did you paint the painting on the stone wall? Did you steal the treasure inside?" Fang Shi looked confused. "What painting? What treasure? Are you talking in your sleep?" Shen Jilin pointed at Fang Shi. "You don't have to pretend to be confused here. Originally I was wondering why you stole the treasure before us, but now I understand. You must have used these big grey birds to steal the opportunity that originally belonged to us. Fang Shi, please return the things to us quickly, otherwise we will never be done with you." Fang Shi was happy. "Shen Jilin, are you going crazy? What you said is all nonsense. You previously falsely accused Brother Mingzhen of poisoning, and now you falsely accuse me of stealing some treasure. What's the matter? Are you just hoping to survive by falsely accusing others? Should I say it or not, someone as vicious as you is really a scorpion daddy. The whole sect is a dog licking, but the junior sister is a real dog." Chapter 949, You can be as strong as you want. Fang's eyes widened in surprise. This 10,000-year fire marrow can actually command those alienated moths. Not only has this thing become a spirit, but he can also have a younger brother. Ever since entering the Haoshan mirror, strange things have happened one after another. First, the fire-eating beast turned into a unicorn, and then the 10,000 years of fire marrow became a spirit again. She sighed while watching the battle. Those big grey fish staring at the 3 people in Fang Shi didn't expect the alienated moths to get involved, because usually these alienated moths just watched from the sidelines. The big grey fish is too lazy to cause trouble with these alienated moths, and the two are on the same page. However, those big grey fish didn't take these alienated moths seriously. If they couldn't, they could retreat into the water. These alienated moths could only stare. They even have some expectations. After all, they haven't tasted the taste of alienated moths yet. Seeing the alienated moths getting closer and closer, the big grey fish opened their mouths wide, and their slender tongues shot out, trying to draw the alienated moths into their mouths. At this moment, those alienated moths shook their wings crazily, and then tiny white scale powder fell into the mouths of those big grey fish. Black smoke suddenly appeared from the mouths of those big grey fish, and then they plunged into the water painfully. Almost in the blink of an eye, the body was floating on the water. Zhang Wen and Huai Ming were shocked. The scale powder of this alienated moth was too poisonous. Fortunately, the junior sister, Captain, is capable, otherwise they would have died a long time ago. Seeing the tragic death of their companions, the other big grey fish did not flinch. Instead, they all jumped up and crashed into the alienated moth. The purpose is very clear, which is to knock these alienated moths into the water. As long as they are exposed to water, these alienated moths will not be able to display the great abilities even if they have great abilities. Of course, the alienated moths would not sit still and wait for death. They flew to the top of the cave and pressed their bodies tightly against the stone wall. Although the big grey fish can fly, the flying height is limited, and there are large and small stalactites blocking it, so there is no way to hit those alienated moths. Seeing that they couldn't do anything to those alienated moths, they vented their anger on Fang Shi and the other 3. They all swam towards the location of Fang Shi and the other 3, preparing to launch an attack. The 10,000 years fire marrow began to flicker again, but unfortunately there was no movement from the alienated moths this time. Fang Shi couldn't help but feel amused. It seemed that the 10,000 years of fire marrow could only control those alienated moths. She looked at the big grey fish that were ready to attack and curled her lips. The next moment, Fang Shi released an army of violent moray eels and sea snakes. Needless to say about the violent moray eel, this guy worked extra hard to avoid becoming a power bank for Jilei. Sizzling discharge. One call and one accurate call. The sea snake army didn't even need to be mobilized by Fang Shi and rushed towards the fish school impatiently. God knows, since they followed this unscrupulous master, they have been hungry twice a year, for half a year at a time. Except for the occasional meal, I rely on willpower to survive the rest of the time. Now that I finally have the opportunity to have a good meal, I naturally won't let it go. Those big grey fish are really unlucky. They usually bully moths, but where have they seen such ferocious sea beasts? Although they can fly, the time they stay in the air is very short. Sooner or later they have to fall into the water, and there is no way to escape from the palms of the sea snake army and the violent moray eels. The sea serpent army and the violent moray eel were very skilled, and they did not eat on the spot. Instead, they tried their best to stock up on food in their own storage spaces. After all, they were the most reliable these days. If they rely on that unscrupulous master, they will starve to death sooner or later. The big grey fish outside the attack range immediately fled. Flying and swimming, I wish I could grow 2 more legs. Less than legs come. Fang Shi asked Zhang Wen and Huaiming Zhen to sit on the back of the violent moray eel, chasing after him closely. She didn't want to kill them all, she just wanted to follow the fish to find the exit. Seeing Fang Shi leaving, Wanyan and Huomui quickly followed. Those alienated moths also wanted to follow, and the 10,000 years of fire marrow suddenly rushed toward them, scaring them so much that they scattered and fled. After several attempts, the alienated moths stopped following me. Fang Shi was amused in her heart. This 10,000 years fire marrow has quite a bad temper. Fang Shi took out the jade box and waved to the 10,000 years fire marrow. The 10,000 years fire essence was really obedient and flew over immediately. But it didn't enter the jade box, but sipped into the auspicious cloud hairpin on Fang Zai's head. Jilei, who was watching the excitement inside Xiangyun hairpin. No, brother, did you go to the wrong door? This is my house. Jilei was stunned for a moment and then became furious. Grandma is a bitch. He actually bullied me, Lord Jilei. What a hack. A bolt of lightning struck the 10,000 years fire marrow from the tribulation thunder. The 10,000 years fire marrow was immediately split into 2 halves and then closed again. Jilei. It didn't believe in the evil and struck it several times. As a result, the effort was in vain. The 10,000 years fire marrow even twisted a few times proudly, almost making Jilei angry to death. Jilei can no longer bear such grievance. It wanted to fly out and complain to Fang Shi, but when it thought that there was an outsider like Huaiming frame, it had no choice but to convey its emotions to Fang Shi through its spiritual consciousness. Although Jilei couldn't express clearly to Fang Shi could also make a rough guess. But there was nothing Fang Shi could do, she couldn't get into the Xiangyun hairpin. Other spiritual pets can also be restrained by divine consciousness, but this 10,000 years fire marrow is a supernumerary. Seeing that Fang Shi couldn't help, Jilei chopped up the Wanyan fire marrow again. Although it is of no use, it is mainly used to vent one's anger. The 10,000 years of fire marrow is just waiting there to be hacked. You can be as strong as you want. The breeze is caressing the hills. I will just ignore you. Jilei exhausted most of the power of thunder and lightning but was unable to do anything with the 10,000 years fire marrow, so he asked Fang Shi to throw it into the water and then find the violent moray eel to charge it. Violent moray eel. No, why is it that I am the one who suffers from what happened between you two? I finally managed to gain some power, and it all came to an advantage for the unconscionable Jilei. Is this justified? In order to appease the violent moray eel, Fang Shi rewarded it with 3 purple beast cores, which finally made it feel better. Seeing Fang Shi give the violent moray eel core, Dead Branch thought of his moss coin and said immediately, Master, have you forgotten that I still have a lot of moss fruits here? Before it finished speaking, Fang Shi said, if you don't tell me, I've forgotten. Give them all to me. I'll give you 3 purple beast cores too. Dead branches. Is it too cheap? There are so many moss fruits and you only gave me 3 purple beast cores. You have to give me at least 100. Master, isn't 3 coins a bit? A bit much, isn't it? Just 2. No, I mean. More. Just 1. Dead branch, then just 3. Next chapter around 8:30. They're both ancestors, why is there such a big difference? Zhu Xuan wanted to pretend for a while longer, but he gave up. Chapter 950. Fang Shi is already in tears. The dead branches stopped at the cliff and killed the idea of exchanging the moss fruits for the beast cores one by one. It actually wants to bargain with the unscrupulous owner. Isn't this seeking skin from a tiger? The big stone was bullied by its unscrupulous owner a few days ago. It doesn't have a long memory and wants to make the same mistakes again. It's so stupid. The wooden sword that was sealed inside the sword was rolling with laughter. With a dead branch, you still want to fight with its owner. You were really asking for trouble. And that unlucky guy Jilei was actually manipulated by a small flame. It was really useless. Ugh. It seems that the master's army of spiritual pets is really useless without it to take charge of the overall situation. Look what a mess it's become. Thinking of this, the wooden sword started to hit for the 10,000th time, trying hard to get out of the sword body, but still failed. Fortunately, its psychological quality was very good. Even so, it was not discouraged and started the 1001st impact. Fang Shi didn't know that Mu Jian was saving herself, so she put the auspicious cloud hairpin full of electricity on her hair again. She thought to herself, she had a ball of fire on her head, she was really lucky. Huaiming Zhen saw Fang Zai's mysterious operation and was so interested that he didn't ask anything. Including the sea snake army and violent moray eels released by Fang Shi, he pretended to have seen nothing. What happened to Warcraft? As long as it is released by the captain, it is a good beast. Besides, if the captain had malicious intentions, grass would have grown on his grave long ago. A person should be grateful. The captain is kind to him. If he asks questions and is suspicious, he will be a white-eyed wolf. Fang Shi was very satisfied with his performance. Knowing how to advance and retreat, and being measured, is very good. As expected of Elder Huai's nephew, he has a rich family background. The years are quiet here, but the big grey fish in front are tired and vomiting blood. They swam forward desperately, but as to why they stopped flying, it was simple, they couldn't fly anymore. They can't help but complain about their companions who have died long ago. Are there not enough moths for you to eat? You must provoke these 3 evil stars. Why are you so greedy? You are dead and 100 are dead, which brings disaster to us. They selectively forgot that they also wanted to attack the 3 of Fang Shi. At this time, Fang Shi found that the water level began to drop. This underground river is interesting. The balance of the food chain is maintained by fluctuations. Of course, it may be survival of the fittest, and the moths are forced to adapt to the rise and fall of the river water. Fang Shi signaled the violent moray eel to slow down, lest the fish in front of them would be exhausted. Although she is like a wild goose, she will not kill them all. If all the fish schools are wiped out, those moths will become infested. Although this is the Haoshan mirror, this Haoshan mirror will be hers from now on, and she has to maintain the ecological balance. All the spiritual pets who sensed her thoughts. Why is the Haoshan mirror yours? Is it really okay for you to be so blindly confident? Seeing that the violent moray eels had slowed down, the school of fish took a breather. They were really exhausted. However, victory is in sight. As long as they hold on, these 3 damn humans will be in bad luck. With good wishes in mind, the school of fish continues to swim forward. Swimming and swimming, the river becomes winding, one bend after another. The 3 people in Fang Shi also heard the deafening sound of the water hitting them. After turning another corner, the river stopped. To be precise, a section appeared, forming a waterfall. Schools of fish waved their fins and glided down the waterfall. Before he went down, he made a coo sound, just like an old hen. Clearly provocative. Fang Shi swam to the edge of the waterfall and looked down. This waterfall is 100 feet deep. If you lose your footing and fall, the consequences will be disastrous. It would be easier to do it in the outside world, just take Eugene and fly down. But since flying is prohibited here, we can only think of other ways. Zhang Wen and Huai Mingzhen scratched their heads and tried to think of a solution, but unfortunately found nothing. Zhang Wen saw Fang's eyes calm expression and asked, "Junior sister, have you thought of a solution?" Fang Shi said, "You have also seen before that although those big grey fish can fly, their flying height is very limited, so when they come up, the height of the waterfall must be much smaller than it is now. So, we just have to wait here." Zhang Wen and Huai Mingzhen suddenly realized what they were saying and started blowing rainbow farts one after another. "You praise me and I praise you." Jian Shou praised Fang Shi as a god. Fang Shi shook his head, "Don't be blindly optimistic. After the water level drops, there may be other dangers here. We need to be more vigilant." As Fang Shi spoke, she began to look for a hiding place. By chance, she found a groove on a nearby stone wall. There were several stalactites in front of it, making it a good place to hide. So, the 3 of them hid in that groove. The water level dropped faster and faster until it was only calf deep. But there was no movement in the water, and there were no bamboo shoots that had appeared before. Just when Zhang Wen and Huai Mingzhi felt that Fang Shi might be worrying too much, many figures suddenly appeared out of thin air. These people wore battle robes and were covered in blood. They kept waving the spiritual swords in their hands. Kill, kill, kill. Following the cry of killing, gravel rolled down the surrounding stone walls, and even some stalactites broke. The murderous intent of these figures was real. Fang Shi and Zhang Wen were fine, but Huai Ming was sweating coldly. He couldn't help but look at Fang Shi and saw that her face was filled with tears. Fang Shi casually wiped her tears with her sleeves. During the ancient battlefield, she had seen the costumes of the various divisions of the Shenyang army from General Yan, and judged from their costumes that these figures belonged to the Tiangshan camp. Thinking about it, they also died in the battle, but for some reason their obsession persisted and they remained here. Huai Ming didn't know what was going on, and thought to himself, it seems that the captain's courage is only so much. I was just scared out of my body in a cold sweat, but she was actually scared to cry. He went to see Zhang Wen again, and when he saw Zhang Wen also looked sad, his self-confidence, which he had been away from home for many days, returned instantly. It seems that among the 3 of them, he is the boldest. At this time, one of those figures looked towards their hiding place, and then he shouted, "Tiang dog thief, seeking death." As he stopped drinking, those figures looked over at the same time, and the long swords in their hands were pointed at Fang Shi and the others. Huai Ming's frame was almost scared to death. At this time, Fang Shi jumped down from the groove. "The Shenyang army Tiangshan camp Fang Shi invites you to join the battle." Zhang Wen also jumped down. The lord of the Tiangshan camp of the Shenyang army heard that he has requested to join the battle. Huai Ming frame. He bravely jumped down. The Tiangshan camp of the Shenyang army, Huai Mingzhen asked for orders to join the battle. He thought to himself, where is all this going? The speaking figure looked up to the sky and laughed. "Okay, I, Juelang, must have this kind of fearlessness of life and death. Kill with me. Kill. 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 Ellipsis. The whole sect is a dog licking, but the junior sister is a real dog." Chapter 951 Yo-ho. We are coming. Huai Mingzhen had 10,000 question marks in his heart, but he didn't dare to ask. He could only follow the others and wave the long sword. At first he just wanted to make up his mind, but unknowingly he was infected by the tragic atmosphere and shouted at the top of his lungs. Kill. 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 Ellipsis. With all the conscience in the world, he doesn't even know who to kill. Anyway, just keep shouting. I don't know how long I shouted, but when the water reached my waist, the figures began to become more and more blurry, and finally disappeared completely. Huaiming vaguely heard someone shouting something about the sun and the moon, and something about Juyu. When he tried to listen carefully, he couldn't hear anything. He wiped his face with water and asked Junwen, "Did you hear clearly what they shouted?" Junwen was different from his usual playful smile. His face was full of solemnity. The long sword shines on the sun and the moon, and the hot blood protects the 9 netherworlds. Huaiming was really not used to seeing Junwen look so serious. He wanted to ask but didn't know whether he should ask, so he didn't ask further. Fang Shi pointed to the groove where they were hiding before, and Junwen and Huaiming followed her and hid in the groove again. Fang Shi looked at Huaiming. "You were curious about the identities of those people, right?" Huaiming scratched his head. "Captain, if it's not convenient for you to tell me, I won't be curious." Fang Shi. "Those people are the obsession of the Shenyan army. The Shenyan army is not a force in the Southern Territory, nor is it a force in the Northern Territory. There are human races, demon races, Satan races, and even some great demons in disguise. They put aside their past grudges and fight against the enemy together, just to protect their homeland." Huaiming is even more confused now. A team formed by the human race from the southern region, the human race from the northern region, the demon race, the Satan race, and the demon race. Why does it sound so mysterious? Then Fang Shi told Huaiming exactly what happened on the ancient battlefield. Huaiming's eyes widened and his mouth opened wide. He received a huge shock. After a while, Fang Shi sighed. "Foreign enemies are watching with eager eyes, and our own people are still deceiving each other, fighting to the death. If the Tiank alliance invades, the consequences will be disastrous. Unfortunately, this matter cannot be spoken out in a big way, otherwise once the Tiank League's informants learn about it, they're likely to take action in advance, which will be very detrimental to us. So far, the number of people who know about this can be counted on one hand. Senior Brother Mingzhen, I didn't want to tell you this matter originally, not because I didn't trust you, but because I was afraid of bringing you danger, but now that you have seen it, I won't hide it from you. Please keep this secret strictly and never reveal it." Huaiming nodded like a fool. "Captain, don't worry, I will definitely keep it secret, let alone tell others. I won't even tell anyone if I talk in my sleep." Fang Shi nodded. "Senior Brother Mingzhen, from now on, the burden on your shoulders will be heavier. What you have to shoulder is not your personal honor and disgrace, but the life and death of the entire Juyu continent." Huaiming suddenly felt excited, and he was 2 feet tall. The uncle always says that he cannot bear the burden of revitalizing the family. Oh, what he is now bearing is the life and death of the entire Juyu continent. "Who are you looking down on?" Fang Shi poured chicken blood and chicken soup into Huaiming, and then said, "As I told you before, this matter cannot be publicized for the time being, and even if I tell it, no one may believe it, and it will alarm the snake. I find that the strategy I am adopting now is to use my bond to integrate all the forces. Now the Northern Territory human race, the Dao tribe and the Demon tribe have no problem, only the Southern Territory human race is left. For the human race in the Southern Territory, the Changsheng Sect is the top priority, and I suspect that there are spies from the Tiank alliance within the sect, so I can only establish a firm foothold first and then slowly figure it out. Everything I did before was based on this starting point. The effect was good, but it was far from enough. I will ask Brother Mingzhen for more help in the future." Huaiming slapped his chest loudly. "Captain, I dare not say anything else, but for the Juyu continent, I will risk my life. If you have any tasks in the future, just arrange them for me and I won't give you a second thought." Fang Shi nodded with satisfaction.